All right, and it appears that we are officially live. Once again, it appears that we are officially live. Ladies and gentlemen, you all are in for a treat tonight. And when I say y'all are in for a treat tonight, I mean you guys are in for a treat tonight. I've got one of the event sponsors with me. I've got the man, the myth himself, Hellraiser, the Wu-Tang Clan affiliate, one of the founding members of Sons of Man. Hellraiser agreed to sponsor this event. He's showing support to global media. He's showing support to Priest Danyaahla of the LOI. What you guys see on your screen right now is the Hood Transporter 3 mixtape produced by DJ Kenny Starr. It's Hellraiser's latest album. So I'm going to let Hellraiser drop a few words, let you know where to find his mixtape. I'll probably play a little music from it while the other brothers show up. But Hellraiser, the floor is yours, good brother. Thank you for sponsoring this
Yes, yes.
event.
I'm all about sponsoring positivity, influence on the world, and the youth. They need this because television won't give it to you. So you're only going to get it on platforms like this right now.
I
I'm in full
agree.
support of my brothers, and because I want the word to get out to the people, and it's that time right now.
I agree. You've always been really good about showing support for your brothers. I want to thank you personally for putting this link and all the promotional information on your social media. I want to thank you for putting all this on hellraiserdigital.com. Ladies and gentlemen, while you have the chance, go to Hellraiser Digital right now and check out everything. His albums, his mixtape, his merchandise. It's got all of his media, okay? Hellraiser's a busy man, but he always takes time to give back to those that he supports, and he supports the cause. So, the Hood Transporter 3 mixtape is out. It just dropped last week. I've been banging it in my car every morning on the commute to work and on my way home. Got a bunch of guest appearances from a bunch of prominent hip hop artists, and the Hood Transporter 3 is definitely what's up. Actually, while I have a chance, I'm going to play one of the shorter tracks. Priest Danyaahla will be joining us momentarily. I've got his PowerPoint presentation. And when I say Priest Danyaahla is about to go in, I mean Priest Danyaahla is about to go in, okay? Actually,
Mm,
Priest Danyaahla actually looks like he just joined us.
yeah.
Mighty Hebrew will be with us. Okay, Judah Priest, Killer Priest, as the presentation goes on, will be with us. So, actually, you know what? Killer Priest, thank you again on behalf of myself. It looks like Priest Danyaahla is here. I know he has to work in the morning, so I've got his PowerPoint presentation pulled up. And what I'll do is I'll make sure to put the link to your website in the chat on YouTube. So without further ado, I want to introduce the good brother Danyaahla from the Lions of Israel. He is our guest of honor tonight. He is presenting his latest PowerPoint lecture that is entitled Journey into a Dark Ages. So I'm going to pull up the promotional material, and we are definitely going to get this started.
Powerful.
So powerful. So powerful. Right, we've got Moray Yoel. Shalom, Moray Yoel. How are you, good
Shalom,
brother?
Moray.
Hey, shalom, shalom, family. I don't know if y'all can hear me. My phone acting up a little bit, but shalom,
We hear
shalom.
you.
We
Yeah,
hear you.
shalom,
We hear
shalom to
you.
y'all. Giving all honor and praise to the Holy One of Yisrael, first and foremost, and also I want to give a shout out to my brother doing this thing out here, the Mighty Hebrew, and to you, Basim, doing your thing, brother. holding
Yes, sir.
down,
Thank you.
information. And also to our brother Hellraiser, aka Heaven Raiser, doing his
Shalom.
thing. Definitely a pleasure to be on the line with the family and to bring forth this unity that's much needed in the community. And so
Khan.
looking forward to a great dialogue today.
This is the season for that right now.
Absolutely.
Shalom to the family.
Shalom,
Ladies and
family.
gentlemen, a man that needs no introduction. You know him as Nasik, Charlandine, the Prince in Training. You know him as the Mighty Hebrew. I prefer to call him the Tribal Minister. He will be moderating, co-hosting this event. This event is sponsored by HellraiserDigital.com and TheMightyHebrew.com. If you haven't already checked out the online university, which is being run by Moray Yoel and the Mighty Hebrew, please do so. I see that Priest Danyaahla, our guest of honor, is here. Mighty Hebrew, why don't you give a quick introduction, a quick shout out, and I'll pull up Danyaahla's PowerPoint and we can turn it over to our guest of honor this evening.
Gang. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme eternal power of Israel, the supreme eternal powerful one of Abraham, Isaac. I'm just happy to be here. I just want to let y'all know Killer Priest, he's on his way. He's with Nas right now. So hopefully I asked him to bring Nas on, so we may get a surprise treat. Nas might stop through. Hallelujah. So that's a beautiful thing right there. So waiting on Killer Priest to come on. He said he'd be on in a few minutes because he was with Nas. So that'll be good. And I'm just glad, that Priest Danyaahla, fine and well. My spiritual advisor, Moray Yoel, Dr. Moray Yoel, Ben Yisrael, Hellraiser, I love you, brother. Tella B is on her way. Tella B is on her way. Judah Priest, he's on his way as well. I don't know if he's on there just yet, but he's definitely on his way right now. I just finished talking to him. So it's going to be a powerful show tonight. And I just want the family to know that Priest Danyaahla, he got this, and everybody is talking about this. Everybody. So, this thing is about to pop. And all those that say that Taurus and the Israelites and Messianic Israelites, we can't come together. Well, this panel right here is Taurus and the Israelites and Messianics and the Israelites together. I see Judah Priestess came on. So we got Priest on the line. You know what I mean? We got Hellraiser. We got
Shalom.
Dr. Moray Yoel. We got, we got Priest Danyaahla. We got everybody in the house. And now we just waiting on right now Killer Priest, hopefully Nas, and Tella B. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Mighty Hebrew. Priest Danyaahla, I want to let Judah Priest introduce himself real quick. I have your PowerPoint presentation pulled up. We're definitely going to let you go in. Appreciate you presenting your lecture, Journey into the Dark Ages on Global Media. It's an honor. It's a privilege. This has been talked about, and it is definitely well anticipated, and the audience is already begging for us to start this presentation. So, Judah Priest, we appreciate you joining us this evening and showing support for Priest Danyaahla on behalf of Danyaahla and the Lions of Israel, his camp that he is one of the co-founders of. If you could briefly introduce yourself, we know you're one of the members of Sons of Man. If you could briefly introduce yourself, and then I'm going to turn it over to our guest of honor, Priest Danyaahla. But welcome, good brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm affiliated with Brooklyn Zoo, and also affiliated with Hellraiser, a member of Ghetto Government, all under the Wu-Tang Collective and family. That's really just much it. Just here to spread the truth and the word of the Most High.
All right. Well, I want to personally thank you. I want to thank Hellraiser. I want to thank Killer Priest for sharing this link. helping with the advertisement and the promotion. Appreciate you guys putting it on your website, putting it on your Twitter, your Instagram, your social media, your website. So definitely glad you can join us. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if everybody could mute their mics, and I'm going to have Priest Danyaahla unmute his mic. Without further ado, Priest Danyaahla from the Lions of Israel, live from New York, getting ready to go in and present Journey into the Dark Ages. Priest Danyaahla, welcome, good brother.
Hey, shalom, shalom. I want to say peace to the family. I want to give, I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear, Chief Priest.
All praise. All right, so I want to give all praise to Yahweh, which is the supreme intellect, supreme sovereign God of the universe, the most high creator of all things, all spirits, in the name of his beneficent son, Yahweh Shai, my Lord and Savior, and who I believe is Hamashiach, Jesus Christ. My name is Brother Priest Danyaahla from the Lions of Israel. I want to greet the esteemed panel. I want to, greet my brother Hellraiser. That's my brother right there. We ain't talking a minute, man, but I still love you, King. You know what I'm saying? I'm wishing the Most High's blessings on you, man. I want to, greet Judah Priest and all the Wu-Tang affiliates that's on the phone. Y'all my brothers, I love y'all, man. Thank you for supporting the Hebrew Israelite community. And the Hebrew Israelite community supports y'all brothers right back. Of course, I want to give a shout out to my camp, Lions of Israel. You know what I'm saying? The brothers that's in the listening audience, as well as one of the elders that's supposed to be on. I'm not sure if he actually was able to get on, but I want to shout him out as well. You know what I'm saying? Elder Priest Zahab Benjamin. We just here, man, to put this information out, man, and to glorify the Most High in Christ and teach our people, man. That's all. It's all about teaching our people. That's it, Sometimes people think when they see us standing on the corners and doing what we do when we stand on the streets that we're not intelligent, that we don't use critical thinking or do any research, that we're just a bunch of brute beasts standing on a corner yelling at the top of our lungs. So every now and then we have to give the people an example of how we actually study and what we actually study, and show people that whatever it is that you hear us saying is things that are well sought out and well studied. So that's what we're here to do today. Some things were said about our ability to prove certain things that we teach. I have a 4-hour lecture that I have coming up in the fall. So this is just a preview to show people a few things that's going to be in this 4-hour presentation. It's very, late, Eastern Standard Time right now. It's after 9 o'clock. I know a lot of people have to go to work in the morning, so forth and so on. So I don't want to be real long-winded. I just want to show people some stuff to pique your interest, so that brothers and sisters that see something that might interest them and they want to learn more, then they'll be able to learn more when we put out this 4-hour presentation, which is going to be information ad nauseum. Information till you almost throw up information. That's what we're going to do when we do that 4-hour. But for now, we're just going to show y'all a little something, man. All right? So that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, we're here for you. We know we support you. Everybody, make sure you check out and you keep in touch with everything Priest Danyaahla's got going on, so you'll know when he does release his full 4-hour lecture PowerPoint on this topic. Really quick, let me give you his websites. The first one where you can find Danyaahla and his camp is www.therealjewsarblack.com. Also, the website for his camp is www.lionsofisrael.org. Priest Danyaahla also has his own YouTube channel. We'll let him plug that. And he is also working on his own website. So, without further ado, I'm going to pull up the first slide. And Journey into the Dark Ages is officially about to start, presented by Chief Priest Danyaahla of the Lions of Israel. And when I tell you the audience and the family has been waiting for this, believe me, they have been asking ever since I released the promotional video. So, looks like slide 1 should be appearing for the Chief Priest Danyaahla any second now, and he will be able to take it away. Everybody but Danyaahla, make sure your mics are muted. Danyaahla, you should see your first slide, good brother, and You know, just let me know whenever you need the next slide. I'll be keeping up with you.
Okay, all praise, all praise. Just for the sake of conversation, family, y'all could just call me Brother Dan. You know what I'm saying? Brother Danyaahla, that's it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm y'all brother, man. I'm no better, no greater than anybody else, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a servant of the Most High, hoping peradventure if it be the Most High's will, that I could be one of those people that actually make it out of America before America is destroyed, pursuant to prophecy. Okay, so I'm y'all brother, man. I'm no better or no different than anybody else, man. I love the people. You know, when the people see me on the street and they recognize me from YouTube videos, whether it be Sonetta TV or Underground Railroad or whatever have you, man, everybody to see me and stop me, man, I talk to them. It doesn't matter if the Israelites, Kemetic, Christian, whatever. We just love the people, man. We love pushing this information, all right? So the name of this presentation is called The Israelite Presence in Early and Middle Age Europe by Danyaahla Bunyamin, a.k.a. Daniel Benjamin. Now, this is a quick presentation that I put forward. I hope no one got the impression that I was going to do the entire presentation on King James tonight. I think the timing is too late. Also, the information is too vast and too exhaustive for me to be able to do it all in one shot. However, you know, after the incident with so-called Dr. James White, I'll give him that accolade because he did go to school and get a doctorate from school. So Dr. James White made a lot of accusations against the Israelite community. And amongst the accusations he made or mocked us about was the fact that we teach that people like James VI of England, James VI and his progeny, his family, they were black people. They kind of found that to be a little comical. Himself, the brother Vocab Malone, also Garfield from the Dagger Squad / Amin Ra Squad, Brother Polite. Who else? Who else made mockery of that? It's quite a few people that made mockery of that as though we just woke up one morning and decided that we just going to make everybody black. But when you do critical research and look into information, you're going to find out that a lot of things that you learned in school were incorrect. And what I find is that when it comes to, let's say, the Kemetic side of the information spectrum, when it comes to the African side of the information spectrum, a lot of our people, they use critical thinking and do deep research. But when it comes to the biblical text and the histories associated with the Bible, they accept everything that's fed to them without doing critical research. That's what I found out. There's a lot of biased scholarship in the community. So we're here to refute biased scholarship. Now I want to say one last thing before we get into the presentation. If you remember about 2 years ago, and I'm going to call names, but I'm cool with these brothers, so it's okay. I'm not saying anything disrespectful. If you remember 2 years ago, the brother Shaka Amos did a 2-hour presentation at Sonetta's house where he said that King James was a homosexual. And the whole community, for the most part, even some Israelite brothers, co-signed that garbage and agreed with that garbage. And it was said that there was no way that we were going to be able to refute that, right? I remember the brother Tazariak sitting on Sonetta's couch, mentioning that it was going to be refuted, and everybody laughed and told the man there was no way. Well, we did a presentation, and we refuted Shaka Amos unequivocally. Now you rarely hear that being said, that King James is a homosexual. The same thing goes with when they said that when the book Demonology was brought up by Brother Polite at the Kemeron trial debate. He brought up the book Demonology. And he said that King James was scared of the fairies, Diana, and he was practicing witchcraft and doing all this other stuff out of a book that he never read. Well, we did a presentation on that at the Exodus Memorial. And now nobody says that garbage no more either. So it's very clear and evident to me that a lot of times when it comes to this particular subject matter, a lot of people are very uneducated in this particular area, but they speak so boldly. It's very bad. All right, so I just wanted to point that out. Now let's get down into the presentation really quickly. Basim, you can go to the next slide.
Sure thing, Danyaahla.
All right, so the next slide, I'm going to go through a couple of scriptures before I get into my presentation real quick. This is a familiar scripture that everybody knows. You learned this when you were 5 years old in church. This is from the book of Psalms, the 23rd chapter, which it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Everybody's heard that psalm before. That's one of the most famous psalms that David ever said. But I want to focus on verse number 5. it says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Now I have the word table there highlighted. Why do I have the word table? Because the table that the Most High prepares for us is the scriptures. And the precepts, Exodus 24:12, Exodus 32:16, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. The table that the Most High is preparing for us is these scriptures and the understanding of the scriptures so that we can remember who we are. That's what's happening in these last days. So it says, thou preparest a table, which refers to the Bible, before me in the presence of my enemies. Now, when you go back and you read the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verses 1 through 3, you see that the Most High anointed David to be king before Saul was even dead. The Most High already had his anointed, who he wanted to rule as king, set up before Saul even died. Likewise, when you go and you read the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44, the Most High said he was going to perform the same thing in these days and time. The Most High says in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44, and in the days of those kings will the Most High set up another kingdom which will never be destroyed. Meaning before this kingdom, this last kingdom, America, goes down, the Most High would already have a people or a nation or a government prepared to rule after this kingdom falls down. And the Most High is doing it right in front of their eyes, and they can see it. They can see the nation of Israel rising. That's why you have so many attacks against Israelites. First, the Kemetic community tried to do it. Now the Christian community is trying to do it. They're trying to destroy this truth because they see that Israel is on the rise. The Most High is preparing his elect, his nation, to rule this nation next, this world next. That's what's happening. All right, next slide, Brother Basim. Brother Basim, you there?
Yes, I'm here. It's on the next slide, good brother.
All right, thank you, brother. All right, so the next slide is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 10 to 13. I'm just going to read it. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am the Lord when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. Now I gave you a precept on the bottom so you could understand what it means when it says the Most High opened our graves. We're not physically dead, but we are spiritually dead. When you read the book of Proverbs chapter 21 verse 16, it tells you that he that wandereth out of the way of instruction shall remain in the congregation of the dead. The way of instruction pursuant to the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15 and 16 is the scriptures. So he that wandereth out of the way of instruction or the way of the scriptures shall remain in the congregation. You'll be like a dead person. You might be physically walking around, but spiritually you're dead. So we are coming out of our graves now because the Most High is breathing that life back into us, which is the understanding of these scriptures by us bethinking ourselves. Okay, it's very, very important to understand these concepts. All right, next slide, Brother Basim.
Yeah, if you're on a phone, Danyaahla, it'll take you a second when you tell me. Yeah, I always go to the next slide as soon as you tell me to. It might just take a second to show up, but you're good to go, brother.
All right, because I'm looking at the phone. Yeah, my bad. Okay. All right, so the next precept I have here is 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 47, and also Psalms chapter 64, verse 8. I'm just going to read them. 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 8, verse 47 says, Yet if they shall bethink themselves, the word bethink means to remember, in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent, and shall make supplication unto the Lord in the land of them that carried them captive, saying, We have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness. The Most High would heal us. The Most High would bring us back. So we need to bethink ourselves, right? Now when you read Psalm chapter 64, verse 8, it says this, So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, all that see them shall flee away. What does it mean when it says your own tongue to fall upon yourself? It means you begin to tell on yourself. You begin to tell the truth. The Most High puts a spirit on certain people to bring certain truths out. Watch this. What you have going on historically, right? You have rogue Caucasian archaeologists, scientists, and historians are telling truths concerning the history of our people. Now, these truths were never meant to fall into our hands. These truths that they tell in a lot of their history books are usually reserved for private conversations amongst themselves. This is why in places like England, you have what is called a library. Then you have something called a royal library, which is part and separate from the regular library that people use. You also have the National Archive in England. That's not open to the public. You also have certain private collections of coins and statues and paintings that's not open to the public. However, certain things that they keep to themselves, but pursuant to the scriptures, some of these things have been, the secrets have been, some of these secrets they have kept hidden have been revealed to us. Excuse me, let me read that again. Certain things they have kept to themselves, but pursuant to the scriptures, some have been revealed, some have revealed the secrets they have kept hidden. There are certain authors and scholars that do research or come across this information that they try to keep hidden, and they wind up putting the information out for public consumption. The average person that's not looking for it is going to gloss right past it or gloss right over it. But those of us that are spiritual and also are technical and analytical, we're going to come across this information that's going to pique our interest, and we're going to dig deeper, and we're going to begin to see the truths of what's been hidden from ourselves, right? Much of our history is also hidden in the basements of the Vatican. They have a lot of information and documents in the Vatican that they don't release to the public. You also have stuff that's hidden in Oxford and Cambridge universities in the basement, where only certain credentialed people can actually go down there and have access to that information. I also brought this out in that lecture I did at the Exodus Memorial when I went and showed how the elite, they only put certain people in certain positions at certain universities to make sure that the information that comes out of these universities is controlled. They don't want this information coming out on a mass scale. However, it has been leaking over the last 100 years and it's coming out anyway. And you have brothers like myself and many, many others, not just Israelites. You have Kemetic brothers that know the stuff I'm bringing out. You have Moorish brothers that know the stuff I'm bringing out. You have a lot of people that know this information that I'm bringing out. It's really not a secret. The problem is, unfortunately, amongst us, forget about the white man, James White, for a second. The problem is, amongst us, you have a lot of people that are very, very lazy to do research. And if it wasn't spoon-fed to you by Dr. Ben, if it wasn't spoon-fed to you by Dr. Clark, if it's not spoon-fed to you by Theophile Obenga or any of the other guys, or John G. Jackson, or any of the other guys that they consider to be the pantheon of historians, if they didn't spoon-feed you this information, then as far as you're concerned, it's not true. But you're going to find out the information has always been here. And there have been authors and scholars that have told you these things, but you call them pseudo. But now it's coming out that they were not pseudo at all. Next slide, Brother Basim. All right. First, the book of 1 Maccabee, chapter 3, verse 48. This is in the scriptures. It says, "And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image." Okay? So they have destroyed the art and images of the dark nations since the time of the Greeks. The Renaissance was not the be-all beginning of it. It started during the time of the Greeks and continued even past the Renaissance into the late 1800s. They was destroying our image all over the world, especially in Europe. And we're going to see that as we go on. I'm going to show you that. Okay? Next slide, Brother Basim. All right. Now let's look at a couple of examples of how they destroy our art. Right? Both of the guys on the screen are supposed to be a guy by the name of Ethelbert, which is one of the great progenitors to the Anglo-Saxon kingdom. On the left-hand side, you have a picture of Ethelbert that was painted in the mid-1400s and sits at the College Chapel of Oxford University, right? This is Ethelbert, right? But on the right-hand side of the screen, you have the same guy. If you look at the writing above the thing, it's telling you that that is Ethelbert too. But he has woolly hair, a full nose, and big lips. So the question is, if Ethelbert, one of the progenitors or forerunners of the Anglo-Saxons, if he was really a white man, then why did they feel the need to change the image that was found on the coin to the image that's found on the left, which is a Renaissance image? Why did they have to change the image of somebody to white that was already white? Now, is there anybody that can't see the guy on the right is black? Everybody can see that. So they've been destroying, and this is, by the way, in England. This is early England. So right here, you can clearly see that they've been destroying our art. This is pre-Renaissance. The Renaissance started when? Around 1453? This is pre-Renaissance. They was destroying our image as they came into power. Very, very important to understand this concept. Next slide, Brother Basim. Now you have another very, very famous king of the Anglo-Saxons. As a matter of fact, he is the most famous king of the Anglo-Saxons. This guy's name is Athelstan, okay? Athelstan is the most famous king of the Anglo-Saxons. He was very rich. He had many wives. It was to the point where he thought that he was even greater than Solomon was, the same way that Charlemagne thought he was greater than Solomon was as well. On the left-hand side, you see an image of Athelstan on a stained glass window in a church in England. But on the right-hand side, and I give you the source, the book that I got this from is a book called the Oxford Illustrated History of British Monarchy. On the right-hand side, you also see the image of King Athelstan and Saint Cuthbert. Now let's start on the right-hand side. Look at Saint Cuthbert. Look at his face. Look at his neck. Look at his feet. Look at his hands. That's a black man. And he has an afro. And the same thing goes for Athelstan. Compare his face to Saint Cuthbert's face. Compare Athelstan's face to the white garment that he's wearing. It's clear that he's a black man with an afro. Now again, because they were whitewashing and Renaissance in the pictures, you could clearly see that they was messing with this picture, but it still remains black. They weren't able to completely destroy this. And this is not meant for public consumption. So they put it in historical books. By the way, when you get the cover of Oxford Illustrated A History of British Monarchy, and you can actually Google it yourself when you get a chance, when you get the image, they make sure that black people will never pick that book up and buy it, because the images on the front are all Renaissance images. So a black person will never pick up the book and look through the book. But when you get this book, there's a lot of black icons, statues, coins, and pictures of the British kings and rulers all throughout that book. But you'll never pick it up if you don't research. You look at the cover and be like, that has nothing to do with us. All right? Next slide. Now, this is a close-up again of the picture of Athelstan and St. Cuthbert, right? And Athelstan was the greatest Anglo-Saxon king that ever lived. Now, I want to go into a little bit of the etymology of the word Anglo-Saxon, because it is taught in this country that when you hear the word Anglo, it's automatically associated with white people. But that's for people that don't study. The word Anglo actually means angelic. And the word Saxon breaks down to sons of Isaac. Who was the angelic son of Isaac? The angelic son of Isaac was Jacob. Remember, Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau was rejected. Jacob was chosen. So Jacob is the angelic son of Isaac. The original Anglo-Saxons were dispersed Israelites. They were so-called black people. The word Anglo does not mean white. That is a lie. When you get into looking into things like surnames and other things, you're going to find out that that word Anglo-Saxon has nothing to do with white. Next slide. All right. This is a very, very important slide. I need people to really pay attention to this, because this is going to be the key to the presentation I'm going to do in the future. That's going to be 4 hours. There's a certain methodology that you have to use to study our history as it pertains to our people when it comes to Europe. It's very, very important to understand that there is a certain methodology that you have to use that is not like any other methodology. If we were to study Kemet, if we were to study the Sudan, if we were to study Ethiopia, if we were to study anywhere else in Africa, Asia, so forth and so on, we won't have to use the same methodology. But in Europe, we have to use a particular form of methodology, and I'm going to show you why in the next slide. This is the methodology that we have to use. You have to look at statutes. You have to look at coins. You have to look at contemporary descriptions of people. Okay? I have the word statues there again. I apologize. You have to look at surnames. The names, people's names have meaning. Okay? You have to look at geography. You have to look at cartography. You have to look at linguistics. You have to look at coats of arms. And you have to look at art. You have to look at all these things to be able to deduce who these people were in Europe. Were they Caucasian or were they black? The unfortunate part is, and the reason why I have it highlighted with 2 stars and in purple, is because a lot of people only look at art. And when they go to Google Images and they see white images, they tell us we don't know what we're talking about. The problem with that is that the majority of the artwork of our people in Europe has been Renaissance, and the originals have been destroyed. And I'm going to show you that. So we have to compare the Renaissance art that they give us on Google Images with the coins that we found. And earlier we saw that the coin of Ethelbert, which is the guy on the right-hand side of your screen, didn't match the image on a stained glass window of Ethelbert. It wasn't the same. They look completely different. One is obviously Negro, and one is completely Renaissance and Caucasian. Now, the average person will go to Google Images and go with the Caucasian one because they haven't studied. You see, we have to use this methodology to be able to deduce who is who in Europe, and everybody's not ready for this. Okay? Now, it says, if any of the aforementioned areas of study are not explored, you may not get an accurate description of the ethnicity of major figures in European history. Google Images is not a sufficient study tool. Okay? And I mean, with all due respect, I remember watching a video where our good brother Sarah Sutin Seti was debating some Hebrews on 125th with Sarnetta. And when they asked him, how do you know that King James was white? He said, I Googled it. That's what he said. And I cut it on video. And it's shameful because it goes to show you he didn't use any critical thinking. He only uses it when it comes to Kemet, but when it comes to stuff like this, he goes with Google Images. You can't do that. Next slide, Brother Basim. All right. This is a word that you have to be familiar with. The word is called iconoclasm. Iconoclasm is the destruction of religious icons and other images or monuments for religious or political motives. In time, the word, usually in the adjective form, has come to refer to aggressive statements or actions against any well-established status quo. Is a frequent component of major political or religious change. But the main point we want to focus on is the first sentence. It is the destruction of religious icons and or other images or monuments for religious or political moves. So the images of our people that were in Europe were destroyed for both religious purposes and political purposes, because the people that destroyed our image, they had a political motive. I'm talking about Oliver Cromwell. He had a political motive when he set out to destroy all the black images in Europe. Let's go to the next slide. This is another term that we have to become familiar with. There's a term out there called generally accepted assumptions. What generally accepted assumptions are things that are often repeated in scholastic circles by people that are supposed to be scholars and historians and accepted by the masses, whether they're true or not. This is especially true in science and history. Most of what you hear in science is theory, but it's accepted by the masses as truth. Most of what you hear in history is both theory and revision, but yet it is accepted by the masses as being true. A great example of a common, generally accepted assumption is Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? Columbus Day is a national holiday where banks are closed. They hold parades in commemoration of Columbus's discovery of America, when the fact is America was already inhabited. So how could he have discovered it? Yet it is taught in schools anyway and accepted on the elementary, junior high school, and collegiate level. And it's celebrated as a holiday by people worldwide, and it's a lie. And we all know it's a lie. Well, I'm going to tell you something. That's the most common generally accepted assumption, but a lot of history is based on generally accepted assumptions and science. Next slide, Brother Basim. Okay. All right, here we go. This is probably the most important slide in my entire lecture. Why? Because here we have an example of Esau telling on himself, his tongue falling upon himself. Watch this. Sir Oliver Cromwell, he was Lord Protector of the Crown of England, and he was an enemy to the black monarchy in the Stuart line, because the Stuart family are black people. Whether you accept it or not, they were black people. And he was an enemy to the Stuart family. So he did everything in his power to try to bring them down. And by the way, he was being financed and pushed by the Roman Catholic Church, right? So this is Sir Oliver Cromwell. This article appeared in a well-known paper called the Daily Telegraph, and I have the link up top. You can actually go and see this. And I took a screenshot so you guys can see that I didn't just make this up. It has the author's name at the bottom, and has the date that the article was published, so forth and so on. So we, us black Hebrew Israelites, we didn't just sit in the corner and be like, we're going to make something up. Nah. All that we bring out, there's a reason or there's a method to our so-called madness. We have information. Even if we be yelling and screaming on the corner, we do have information, beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? Let's go to the right. Now, it's a long article. I screenshotted just the portion that I need because this is supremely important, right? Now, this is what this paragraph says right here concerning Oliver Cromwell. And then there is his impact on his country's artistic and intellectual heritage. So this dude had an impact on the artwork in his country. Watch this. No one can be sure of the exact figure, but it is estimated that the destruction, iconoclasm, we just read it, the destruction started and legalized by Cromwell amounted to 97% of the English art that was then in existence. Does everybody see that? Does everybody see that? So when you go into Google Images and you're going to put up an image and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about because Google shows King James being a white man, I'm not stupid. You're stupid, because they're telling you that art was destroyed. What you're seeing is garbage. That is why, if you could, Brother Basim, if we can go back a couple of slides, I want to go back to that slide that I had. I'm going to tell you which one. It's the ninth slide, how to study. Go back a little bit. I'm going to tell you where. One more. Keep going. Right there. This one. Yes, right here. This is why I said to brothers. This is why I said to brothers before. I was like, look, if in order for you to understand the history and how these people really looked and who they were, you have to study all of this, because Cromwell destroyed the artwork, which you see is the one that's highlighted, but you still have the coats of arms. You still have the linguistics. You still have the cartography. You still have the geography. You still can look at their surnames. You can look at contemporary descriptions, and you can use coins. All this stuff is still in existence, so you have to study all of this. Now, let's go back to that screen again, Basim. Same one I was on. Right here. So 97% of the artwork that was in existence, this dude destroyed. Let's keep reading. Statues were hacked down. So a lot of statues got destroyed too, but not all of them. By the way, when you get a book, I'm saying things to y'all family, and I'm showing y'all stuff too, obviously. I'm saying certain things to y'all family, but when I do the 4-hour presentation, I'm not going to say much out of my mouth that I'm not going to show too. Tonight, because this is a brief presentation, I'm going to say some things that I'm not going to show, but I feel like I'm still showing y'all enough to understand that we telling the truth, right? Now, when you get the book, The Oxford Illustrated History of British Monarchy, which has a cover that will, repel the average Negro away, when you look at some of the statues, you know what they did? They chipped the noses off. Facts of kings of England and queens of England. They would chip the noses off and cut the lips off. They didn't want you to know that they were black. And that's in that book. Same way they did to the Sphinx and all the Egyptian statues that they didn't want you to know that they didn't want you to know were black. They did the same thing in England. If they weren't black, why are the statues completely intact with the exception of the noses and the lips? Why did they deface the whole statue? See, I'm gonna show that later, another time. But anyway, statues were hacked down, frescoes were smashed to bits, mosaics were pulverized, illuminated manuscripts were shredded, wooden carvings were burned, precious metal works were melted down, shrines were reduced to rubble. This vandalism went way beyond a religious reform. You know why he was doing this? Because he did not like black people, specifically the king at that time, which was James VI and the First. He did not like him. And he was hired by the Roman Catholic Church to bring him down. And when he finally brought the Stuart dynasty down, okay, he destroyed all their images, right? And the blacks that were living in England, Ireland, and Scotland, he rounded them up and sold them into slavery in the Caribbean and the Americas, and I can prove it, and I will in my 4-hour lecture. That's what happened to the images and us in Europe, as this is a fact, all right? Let's move on. I don't want to stay too long. Y'all get the general gist of this, and you'll see this slide again as we go on later. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's another one we want to look at, right? This is a question, without me giving too much away for the lecture coming up, this is a question that I have. The man that you're looking at on the screen is James III, okay? It says, will the real James III please stand up? So we have a question. We have a debate now. Who's really James III? I say the guy on the left is fake. I say the guy on the right is the real guy. The guy on the right is black. The guy on the left is a Caucasian. I say the guy on the right is the real James III. Who is James III? Well, let me break down the history for you. You had King James, the famous King James, the 6th and the 1st, right? He died. His son Charles I came into power, right? Charles I was beheaded by Oliver Cromwell, a guy we just read about, because he hated the Stuart family. He finally was able to get a hold of power, and he beheaded King Charles I, and Oliver Cromwell came into power. When Oliver Cromwell died, his son came into power, but his son was a coward. So what his son did was his son brought back the Stuart family, and you had Charles II that came and sat on the throne, which was the grandson of King James. Again, you had King James, you had Charles I, you had Charles II. Charles II died, and his brother came into power, James II. Right? And after James II died, this guy on the screen, James III, came into power. My question to James White, and Vocab Malone, and all the rest of these clowns is, if King James was white, if Charles I was white, if Charles II was white, if James III was white, how the hell did they get a black grandson? Explain that to me. How the hell did they do it? I want to know. And this image is a real image. It's not something that somebody made up in a dark room somewhere. That is Charles III. And if he was already white, why did they feel the need to repaint the image and make it whiter? Because you can look at that and you can see the Negroid features in the one on the right. The broad nose, the full lips, the brown face, the whole nine. That's a black man. And this is the great-grandson of King James, who y'all say was white. So where did the black blood come from? Next slide, Brother Bassi. And just in case you think I made it up, you ever heard of Christie's auction house? They got a hold of the image of James III and they auctioned it off. So if the image on the right is not the real image, Basim, go back one slide real quick. Go back one slide. Christie's auction house auctioned off the black picture on the right as the authentic. So if the guy on the left, which is what Google Images is going to give you, if the guy on the left is really James III, then why did Christie's auction house auction off the black one on the right as being authentic? Go to the next slide, Basim. And this picture belongs to a private collector because, again, they don't want these images laying around for Negroes to get a hold of. But these things leak out and we get a hold of them anyway. So here we have the great-grandson of King James, who everybody says was white, being a black man. I want to know what y'all going to do. I want an explanation for that. I want an explanation for that. Y'all just insisted he was a white boy. I need an explanation in where this black guy come from the line. That's your homework. Next slide, Brother Basim. James III, pictured on the right, became king in 1701. He is the great-grandson of King James, the famous one, 1566 to 1625. But again, how was this black man the grandson of King James I when historians say James I was a white man and his son Charles I was white? And why did they feel the need to repaint the image if he was a white man to begin with? It's the same image, y'all. You see the leather thing on the left? You see the leather thing on the left shoulder? You see the armor? You see all that? They just changed it, changed the nose, changed the lips and everything, and the guy on the left looks gay too. I'm just saying. Next slide. All right. Now, again, let's go back. And I know I'm going over a lot. That's why I'm going to do this in a form of a 4-hour lecture where people could probably watch the lecture multiple times, because every time you watch it, there's some new information going to come out. Information ad nauseum in that lecture. Even in this, I know I'm saying a lot. So, you know, when you get a chance, if you miss something that I said, you know, this will be posted on the Brother Basim's channel. You can go back and you can look at this again. And if you miss something, maybe you can catch it then. Okay? And as you can see, we present information. Nothing that we presenting is us just saying it. So we got to kill all that garbage that's being said out here. All right? Now, again, we have King James VI and the First, the famous King James, right? His son was Charles I. And Charles I's son was Charles II. So the guy that I'm about to talk about now is King James's grandson. We already talked about his great-grandson, James III. We proved he was black. But now let's go one ancestor before to Charles II, which is the grandson of King James. Okay? This is from a BBC article, so it's not no pseudo stuff, right? This is the BBC article, right? PDF that I got offline. And the article is called, as you can see, The Power and the Passion. It's talking about Charles II, the great-grandson of King James. The last one at the very bottom, it says page 33. It said there are 10 things you didn't know about Charles II and his reign. There are 10 things that you didn't know. Next slide, Brother Basim. Now, 10 little known facts about Charles II, which was the grandson of King James, right? Number 8 is the one that we want to look at, but the writing is a little small, so I'm going to magnify it so you can see what number 8 says. Next slide, Brother Basim. Number 8 of the 10 little known facts about Charles II, the grandson of King James, is pubs or bars and inns across England are called the Black Boy and are generally named after Charles II. So they named a pub called the Black Boy. Not one pub, there's tons of them all over England. They named a pub the Black Boy in commemoration of King James's grandson. We already proved his great-grandson James III was white, but now the grandson, which is even closer to King James, he's also being called black. Why? If these people were white, I just don't get it. Why? That's the homework. I want to know why. Next slide, Brother Basim. Now I have information which I'm going to present at a later time. I just wanted to put this out there as a teaser, right? Charles II was described by his mother as being abnormally black, which would then explain why we just saw James III being auctioned off at Christie's as a black man, because his uncle, who ruled before him, was called abnormally black by his mother. I could prove that. Why would the Black Boy Inn be named after a white king? Explain that. And you can see that that's one of the images of the Black Boy Inn in England that was commemorated and named after a black king named Charles II, which was the grandson of King James. We're finding all this black ancestry in King James's family, but y'all say he was white. Y'all say this is just a figment of our imagination. No, you're wrong. On the right-hand side, you can see another image of the Black Boy Inn, another different one, and you can see the logo that they use there as well. It's always the image of a young black man, because that's what Charles II was. Okay, and that image I pulled off of Wikipedia. I pull stuff from different places to show people that we're not just making this stuff up. Next slide. Let's bring it a little closer to home, right? Now stay with me, y'all. This is Elizabeth of Bohemia. She's actually the physical daughter of King James himself. It is through her that the Hanover dynasty, which came into power after the Stuarts, it is through her that the Hanover dynasty came into power. Now, the whitewashers couldn't get the lie straight. Did Elizabeth of Bohemia have black curly hair? Did she have red curly long hair? Did she have a red afro? Did she have red long curly hair like all the way on the right? I got that from Google Images. They can't even get their lie straight. They got this woman looking like 5 different things. You know why? You know why the images don't match? Because they're all lies. That's why. That's why. Because as we read before, Oliver Cromwell destroyed 97% of the art that was in England. So all of this is garbage. When you look to the right, this is a coin of Elizabeth of Bohemia. And you can see she has the broad nose, the full lips, and the afro. Why? Because she was a black woman. That's why. And the image still stands today on this coin, even though the other images were destroyed. All right? Now remember, I said it is through her that the Hanovers came into power, meaning through her line, the Hanover dynasty came into power. Remember, you had the Tudors, right? Mary Queen of Scots was the last of the Tudors. After the Tudors, you had the Stuarts, okay? And the Stuarts were black. After the Stuarts, you had the Hanovers, right? So now this woman is the progenitor of the Hanover dynasty. Let's look at some of the Hanover people, shall we? Next slide. This is Queen Charlotte Sophia. Now, if these people were all white, why do they go through so much trouble of whitewashing them? On the left, I went to Google Images and I got all these images of Queen Charlotte Sophia. Clearly, you can see that they just made her totally look like a white woman. But on the right, that's the real image of Charlotte Sophia. And it was painted by her personal painter, Alan Ramsay. And if you ask me, yes, I have the book. Yes. The image on the right is the actual image of Queen Charlotte Sophia. She is the wife of King George III of the Hanover dynasty that was ruling England in the 1700s. This is after the Stuarts, after King James. Still we was ruling. But they said that we just making this stuff up. Next slide. Now, just in case you think that I just made this stuff up, family, J.A. Rogers told the family this decades ago. He tried to tell our people about the black monarchies of England and Europe, but in his day he was considered to be pseudo. On the left hand, you could see the image from the cover of J.A. Rogers' famous book that every Israelite just about knows, and Kemetic and everybody, they know. That's Nature Knows No Color Line. That is Charlotte Sophia. This is a book about black royalty. Why did he use an image of Charlotte Sophia on the cover of his book about black royalty if she was a white woman? Because she wasn't. She wasn't, and he realized and figured that out. The only problem is he should have used the image on the right rather than this one in color, but maybe at the time he put the book together, he didn't actually have the image that we were able to find. But clearly, she's a black woman. That's why he put her on the cover. So it's not just Israelites saying this stuff. Scholars that are respected for decades are telling you the same thing. Next slide. Now we got to ask about George III. Charlotte Sophia was married to this guy right here. This is King George III. On the left-hand side, you see an image of George III that you can find on Google Images with ease. On the right-hand side, you see an image of who also is George III. That's the real image. That is a coin that was minted in commemoration of George III that was put on the penny in Barbados. So when they went ahead and they were destroying all the black art and putting up the garbage that you see on the left, as I said before, the coins still remained. They didn't get to the coins to destroy them. They weren't able to melt them all down. They were still in circulation. And luckily they've been found, and that guy on the left, on the right-hand side, is an image of George III. That's the real image of how he looked. Now, somebody is saying, nigga, how do you know that? How do you know that? Next slide. Well, you like Google so much, why don't you just type it in? I took a screenshot of a Google search, just so people wouldn't say that I just made it up. You type in Google Images, George III, Barbados penny, and voila. They have the images of penny from Barbados, and Google is telling you, if you're listening, that is George III. That's him, not the guy that you saw before. Hope everybody sees that, right? Now, if you look, also, they throw in, at the bottom, second row, they throw in some other coins as well. But those coins are not ancient. They were not minted during the time of George III. When you do research, the coins that you see that look more Caucasian, these coins were minted later on, just so y'all know. All right, next slide. Family, this is not new information. Note the European-style crowns on Negro heads. This is from page 76 in the book Nature Knows No Color Line. J.A. Rogers was telling y'all decades ago that the monarchy in Europe, in England, and places, all of Germany, Spain, all that stuff, was black. Now, most black people accept the Spain thing, but they don't know this history right here. J.A. Rogers told you this years ago. Now, if you look, you could clearly see black faces with European-style crowns, because when you go and you check out the kings of Africa and different countries, they didn't wear crowns like these. These are European-style crowns with black people with them over their heads. Look at the one all the way on the right, to the right, the third one down, with the crown on the head. See? Now, when you go all the way to the bottom of the page, what does it say? It says British families. So, yes, we were ruling over there. We did not just make this stuff up. No. This has always been there. The problem is the majority of people, they don't know how to study. Their level of study on this particular subject matter is Google images, and we just proved by the article I showed you that is the worst thing you can do on the subject matter, because Cromwell destroyed 97% of the images that are on the pictures. So you have to look elsewhere to find out the truth. That's what we're doing. Next slide, Brother Basim. Now, the book picture to the right is one of the sources that J.A. Rogers used to uncover Negro ancestry in medieval Europe. And if you ask me, yeah, I got both books. Because when I first started learning this stuff, I looked at the J.A. Rogers book, and if you look at the bottom of the screen, he gives you his sources. If you look at the second to last line on the left-hand side with all the pictures, if you look at the second to last line, you see in the middle it says Fairborn's Book of Crests. So I wanted to go and find out where J.A. Rogers got his information from, so I went out and I got it. And this is an official book in England. This is considered official source. This is a primary. And these families that were ruling England were black. No, we're not making this stuff up. So I don't know what the hell James White is talking. James White doesn't know what he's talking about. He's set up to cause confusion and to make our people have doubt. But we have no doubt, because if you, as a critical researcher, I just want to put this caveat in here real quick, right? When I first came into the truth, and I heard the elders, I'm talking about this, I came into Israel in 1992. When I first heard the elders saying this stuff that I'm showing you now, I thought they were crazy. I said, these guys are bugging. What the hell are they talking about? Those are white people. But I was intrigued. So I continued to go to the school because I wanted them to prove it. So I held my peace. I didn't make sure I didn't say nothing stupid. I said, if this guy is saying this stuff, I want him to prove it, but I'm going to wait, because if I say he's lying, I'm going to look stupid in the end. So I sat back and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and the more I went to the class, the more information that came out, and I found out that they were right. The elders of One West, whether you hate them or love them, was teaching this 25 years ago when I came into the truth, and I had to still sit here and teach this again 25 years later, because you have Israel, I'm talking about Israelites now, that will side with James White and side with Vocab Malone and say that they right, and won't side with their brother, and they know damn well they haven't done the research, especially in this area. It's crazy. See? I want to take a time out, man, to big up two brothers real quick, man. I want to big up my brother Nasir Yashuvel. And I'm going to tell you why I'm bigging that brother up, right? That's my brother. We don't have no problems. You know, that's about, we don't have no problems. That's my brother, right? I'm going to tell you why I respect that brother. Because he grew up as a Torah-based Israelite, and he told me that when One West used to say this stuff in the 90s, he used to laugh at them. He used to laugh. Ha, y'all stupid, y'all crazy. But he said he used to laugh. And when he and I first met, one of the first things he said to me was, when he started doing the unity thing, he said he started looking into some of the stuff that brothers was saying, like what I'm showing you. And he came to me, he said, you know what? I found out y'all was right. This is a brother that said he was raised to believe the opposite. But he was humble enough to go look. He's like, y'all were right. I got to big that brother up for that, because that takes courage and guts. Also the brother Kashub Danite. my Morey, Yeshaya Israel, man. That's another brother, man. Very humble. Let me tell you something. In this walk, no matter how long you're in this walk, you are a lifetime student. I'm telling you that I learned things from Kashub that I didn't know. I was an Israelite. I met Kashub, what, 2-3 years ago? I was already in this walk over 20 years. And there's things I learned from him I didn't know. And I thought I was a historian. I thought I was a historian, but I'm going to tell you that that brother is a greater historian than me, especially when it comes to the Middle East and Egyptian history. The brother be going in, man. That's a fact. I learned things from Nasi as well. You see what I'm saying? I want to big up all the Shema Yisrael, all them brothers. Those are good brothers, man. All praise to the Most High, but I don't want to get distracted. I apologize. Next slide, Pasi.
Definitely, Danyaahla. Really quick, I want to second that. Big shout out to Nasi Yashavel of Shamrei HaTorah, Atlanta, Georgia. The brother's got a new building, doing great work, unifying. He's involved with the Moors. If anybody can support the Hebrew Israelite Unity Summit camping trip that Nasi Yashavel, his wives, and his temple is putting together next month, please support that event. Danyaahla, here's the next slide. You're definitely teaching, good brother.
Destroy him, Danyaahla. That's right. Hallelujah.
I'm trying, bro. I'm a little guy in this. I'm trying.
You know I had to say something, man. I'm up here biting my tongue.
I know,
man.
I know you. I know you're ready, man. This is light. This is light, man. You know what I'm saying? This is light. You know, the nuclear bombs they're gonna see in the next joint. This is light. Let's go to the next one.
Dang. Hallelujah.
Okay. All right, family. So the next thing I want to show y'all is some coins. Right. Just go back a little bit in history, and then we're gonna switch subjects a little bit. This is Alpha. He was king of the Anglo-Saxons. This is some coinage that was found, and you can find these coins today from the Fitzwilliam Museum at Cambridge University, right? On the left-hand side, you can see Alpha. Let's look at the one on the left first. Focus on that real closely. The coin on the left, you see the broad nose and the full lips? That's Alpha. That's a black man, and he was king of the Anglo-Saxons. We already went over. The word Anglo means angelic. The word Saxons means sons of Isaac. These people knew who they were. They knew who they were. They knew they were Israelites, dispersed Israelites. The problem is we don't know. We done lost that history. Right? So clearly the image on the left, if you look very closely, that's a black dude, broad nose, full lips. On the right-hand side is another coin also commemorating Alpha, broad nose and full lips as well. Now, the thing on his head, that's not his hair. Okay? That's a crown, because a lot of the Anglo-Saxon kings early on, before they started wearing the crown that we're used to seeing today, they were wearing the same sort of style of crowns that the Romans were wearing. They were wearing the same style of crowns. So that's like a wreath around his head. But he clearly has a broad nose and full lips. That is a black dude. But if you go on Google Images, they're going to give you a Renaissance icon of him, and a lot of our people are going to go with that. Or next slide. Okay. This is another Anglo-Saxon coin. This is also from the Fitzwilliam collection at Cambridge University. Do y'all see I just want to know, that's why I mean this is a rhetorical question, but family, do y'all see the importance of studying the information outside of just the artwork? Because the coinage and all other stuff tells you the story that the artwork won't tell you. And the coinage and all that stuff will also contradict what the artwork will tell you. You see what I'm saying? They're always starkly different one from another, because one is a lie and one is true. Look at the nose and the lips on this thing. You can go do your own research. These coins are from the Anglo-Saxon collection at the Fitzwilliam collection at Cambridge University. These are primaries, not no daggone pseudos. I don't want to hear that. If you say I'm presenting pseudo today, you are a liar, because I didn't make none of this stuff up. Next slide. Now, this information comes from a book that I have called The Origin of the Anglo-Saxon Race, right? This is written by an author by the name of Thomas William Shore. All right, this book was written in the early 1900s. I'm talking about 1920, 1918, like real early. This was when black people wasn't reading these scholarly books. This information was only being passed around amongst the elites. And this guy wrote a book. This is an example of their own tongue falling upon themselves. They admit that their forefathers, the Anglo-Saxons, were a dark people, not white. Let's look. Page 114, right? It says, continue from previous page. There is another way in which men of black hair or complexions may have come into England. So the subject matter is, how did dark people of dark complexions come into England? So we're going to skip down and go down to the highlighted part on the right on page 115. It says, for the conversion of men of their own race, as their manners, as their names indicate. Remember I told y'all about surnames, right? Their names also indicate their complexion. I went over this on a lecture before that I did at Nicholas Bookstore, but I'm going to go over it again in my other presentation. But your name also tells a lot about how you look, right? From the conversation of men of their own race, for as their names indicate, they bore in their different complexions evidence of the existence of the fair and dark people among the Anglo-Saxon stock. So there were people that were fair, and there were also people that were very dark. When you read in other parts of this book, the people that are described as fair are the Anglo-Saxons that were pretty much brown skin, butterscotch to a brown skin. And then you also had another people amongst the Anglo-Saxons that were extremely dark. And this book goes into all that stuff. So here's an example of a white author in the early 1900s telling you the Anglo-Saxons are black. Yet today, if you ask a white person, what's your nationality, they're going to tell you they're Caucasian, or they're going to tell you that they're Anglo. They're neither. And unlearned Israelites will probably tell them, yeah, because you're not learned in this area. It's just a fact. No disrespect. Next slide. Here's another author that told you something many years ago. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Everybody knows this guy, right? He wrote a book called African Presence in Early Europe, amongst many of his other books. In his book, African Presence in Early Europe, on page 225, he tells you the Britons look like the Ethiopians. Okay, so I pulled up a picture of the Ethiopians, and that's how they look. So Dr. Ivan Van Sertima says the people that were ruling Britain look just like those people on the right. Decades ago. How are we just making this up today? Next slide. So we're back to this again, right? Third line, Cromwell amounted to 97%. The destruction started and legalized by Cromwell amounted to 97%. That's why we have to look at the coins, the surnames, the statues, and all that other stuff, because they destroyed the artwork. Clear. So I wanted to bring that back to your memory, refresh your memory in case you forgot. Next slide. All right, this is very important to understand. When I talked about surnames and names, I'm going to give y'all one example here, and then we're going to switch subjects. I believe I'm going into something else after this slide. This is very important to understand. There is a difference between the British and the English. Most people don't understand that, but there is a difference. Let's look at words. The word Brit, right? When you go to the book of Isaiah chapter 42, verse 6, when you go to the Isaiah 49 and 8, the Most High speaks about Brit Am, which is the people of the covenant. Brit Am, or as we say in Lashawan Quadash, Bar Yath Aim. Bar Yath Aim. Okay? The word Brit means covenant, right? The word Ish, or as we say in Lashawan Quadash, Ayash, that means man. So the word British means man of the covenant. That's what the word means when you look at the Hebrew. And you got a whole bunch of Israelites that talk about being Hebrew scholars. Well, how come you couldn't break this down? How come you didn't know this? The word British is Hebrew. It means man of the covenant. That's what it means. Now, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the Israelites were the ones that the Most High made the covenants with. So the people that were living in England that were calling themselves British or people of the covenant, that's because they knew that they were the people of the covenant, which were black Hebrew Israelites, although they were actually practicing Christianity. But they knew that they were Israelites. And there's much evidence on that, which I'll go into another time. The English are the Caucasian usurpers trying to overthrow the people of the covenant. From the time of Oliver Cromwell, which we already went over that slide twice when he started destroying the black art. Also understand again, Oliver Cromwell, after he came into power, when he beheaded the black king, Charles II, the son of King James, When he came into power, he rounded up the black people that were in England, Ireland, and Scotland and shipped them to the Americas to be slaves. That is documented. Okay? From the time of Oliver Cromwell and later the English waged war against the British. The Stuarts were also called Jacobians. When you look up the Jacobian dynasty or the Jacobian lineage in England, that's talking about King James and his family. Why would they call themselves Jacob, Jacobian? Why? Anyway, next slide. Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit. Basim, is the slide up? Because I can't see it. I'm just going to assume that everybody can see it. Basim, you there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry. I know you.
It's up, and it takes me a second to unmute my mic so you're not interrupted. But yes, good brother, the slide's up.
All right.
Okay, you go. We can
I can't hear you. Mighty Hebrew, I can't hear you.
We can
All right, please continue. You're good to go, Danyaahla.
Okay, I apologize, Mighty Hebrew. You have a bad connection. I didn't. You said. Hopefully, hopefully it was good. I don't know, but anyway, let's move on, King. Let's move on. All right. So we took care of England briefly, right? Family, when I tell y'all, I got so much stuff. I got so much stuff. You know what I'm saying? King James himself traced his lineage back to black people. He's out of his own mouth. I could show that. I got so much stuff. If y'all interested in what I'm saying, family, I'm going to put it out there when I do the 4-hour lecture. I promise you, I might bore some of you to death, you know what I'm saying, when you watch it on the spot, but if you take it and watch it in pieces, I'm telling you, I'm drop so much information, it's crazy. Anyway, let's move on, right? We're looking at this word iconoclasm again. The word iconoclasm was not limited to Western Europe. Western Europe would be Spain, Germany, England, France, all the places where we ruled that our image was destroyed was not limited to Western Europe. Iconoclasm also took place in Eastern Europe as well, but not to the extent of destroying 97% of our images, right? Now, the source below, the picture below is a very famous picture, right? You can see a white Russian monk or priest, whatever you want to call him, painting a obviously Caucasian image. This image from a book called The Russian Icon by Father Vladimir Ivanov. I'm giving y'all sources. The Russian Icon by Father Vladimir Ivanov, right? The guy in the picture is painting an image of a white person. The problem is the images that existed prior are behind him, and they're black. The guy right next to him, his left, right next to him, that's Yahweh Shai, Jesus Christ, dark skin, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Behind him, that guy with the long beard behind him, that is Saint Basil. We're going to talk about Saint Basil a little bit now. I'm going to show y'all some stuff. That is Saint Basil. Clearly a black guy. All right? Next slide, Brother Basim. All right. This is St. Basil's Cathedral, which is in Moscow, Russia. I got an image of the outside of the cathedral, and I have an image of the inside of the cathedral. And this is one of the main tourist attractions in Russia today. Okay? Look on the wall. Do I even need to talk? Look on the wall of St. Basil's Cathedral. This is in Russia. Look at the bottom palettes, right? The guy in the middle, there's St. Basil again. Black man with an afro and a long beard. Family. They built a cathedral to this black guy. So now here's my question. But who or when or what or why would the Russians, people in Russia, build a cathedral to a black patron saint? You know why? Because the people that built this cathedral were black. I know it sounds crazy. That's okay. We're gonna get to it. Next slide, please. Now there has been some iconoclasm, as I said before, that's gone on in St. Basil Cathedral, because you can see that some of these images are a lot lighter than the ones we saw before on the previous slide. Some of these are lighter, but still dark. At the very bottom, the third one to the right at the bottom, that's supposed to be Mary and Christ. I really believe it's Ceramicus and Tammuz, but that's neither here nor there. But they say it's Mary and Christ, and you can see the baby has a fro and all that. They're dark and everything like that. This is black icons in Russia still to this day, clearly. Next slide. Okay. So now let's look at this real carefully, and this is why I say that when the study of European history is not like the study of any other history, you got to be careful, meticulous, take your time when you're studying this. This just stood out to me as I was doing this presentation, right? It says, "Will the real Saint Basil, who they built a cathedral for, will the real Saint Basil please stand up?" So there's an argument: is the guy on the right Saint Basil, or is the guy on the left Saint Basil? I say the guy on the right is actually Saint Basil. How do I know that the guy on the left is not Saint Basil? Well, look at the writing behind him. That's English. That's English. St. Basil was Russian. The guy on the right actually has Russian writing on the paper or the scroll that he's holding. The guy on the left has English writing. You know why? Because this picture came afterwards. It is Renaissance garbage. Why do they feel the need to whitewash these images of people if they were already white? Why do they always change them? Because they know that they were not. It's real simple. Next slide. Brother Basim, next slide. Now, you probably never heard of this guy, right? This guy's name is Fedor. Fedor is the son of Ivan the Terrible. Everybody's heard of Ivan the Terrible. Fedor is the son of Ivan the Terrible. So I put, will the real Fedor please stand up? On the left-hand side of the screen, this is from Russia Today and Russiapedia. They gave us an image of Fedor, and you can see that they put an image of a white guy there. But when you look to the right, that's also supposed to be Fedor. And the source of that image is a book called The Rise of Russia by Time Life Books. Time Life Publications put this black image in their book, which I have. So now, here's the question. Which one is really Fedor? Is it the guy on the left or the guy on the right? What is there? Why is there a black image of Ivan the Terrible's son if these were all white people? Why is there even in existence? Why would Time Life Books even put the black image in their book? If he was a white guy, it should be an open and shut case. You know why? Because he wasn't white, he was black. That's how you get the black icons in Russia. Nobody ever goes into this stuff. The reason why you have so many black Russian icons is because the very czars that were ruling were also black. And their images are still available to us today in Russia, actually way more prevalently than they are in Western Europe. You can find these images a lot easier. Go to the next slide. That image of Fedor that I showed is a black and white that was in the book Time Life Publications of the color image, and here's the color image right here, which just brings it more into perspective. And this is also in Russian. You can look at the top of the screen and see the Russian writing at the very top. This is primary stuff, man. This is in the museums, this is in the churches and all that stuff in Russia today. Very easy stuff to find. That is Fedor with an afro and brown skin, looking nothing like the guy we saw on the previous page to the left. To black people. This is where you get your black Russian icons from. Go to the next slide, Brother Basim. All right, so we went over Fedor, who's to the right. The guy to the left is also one of Ivan the Terrible's sons as well. Another son. That's Dmitri. So two of this dude's sons were black. You can see Dmitri, if you look to the left, brown hands, brown face, and an afro underneath his crown. It's black people. But somebody might say, Daniel, I don't know if that's Dmitri. Like, where'd you get that picture from? Like, maybe I'm an artist. Maybe I just made that up. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. So I put it again. Will the real Dmitri please stand up? Why will they whitewash a person that was already white? Let's look to the right first. The Dmitri that I showed you, family, that's from a scene from a wall in the Church of Nativity in Russia. I'm telling you where you can find it. The Church of Nativity in Russia, that's where you get that black image from. On the left, that's also supposed to be Dmitri. And that is from Wikipedia. That's what they feed us. And a lot of black people and Israelites, they go to Wikipedia and they see this white image and they're convinced. That is not ancient. That left picture on the left is Renaissance art. Look at the so-called Jesus that's standing above him. That looks like Caesar Borgias, because it is. That's Caesar Borgias. That's Renaissance art. That's not the real. The real is to the right. The one to the left is a copy of the one on the right, because of the one on the right, you can see that that's a black image of Christ at the top. So they went and they changed the whole thing. Why would they need to change the image so dramatically if these people were already white? Because they weren't. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. And I'm not the first to say it. Jay Rogers told y'all this years ago, and he was called pseudo. Next slide. I just dropped my phone. Can y'all hear me? I want to make sure brothers can hear me. You can hear me, Basim?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. I have everybody up till you're done your presentation, but we hear you loud and clear, good brother.
Okay, next slide, brother Basim. All right. This is a image. You can see the Russian writing at the top. You can look this image up yourself. I don't know if you changed the slide, Basim. It doesn't look like you did, but anyway, it says the Russians versus the Tartars. Right? The Mongol Tartars and their armies and the Black Russian Tsars had many wars. And the Black Russian Tsars built cathedrals to commemorate their victories over the Tartar hordes. The Tartar hordes were white Khazars. They also went by the name of the Kazan Tartars. These were white Khazars that were constantly going to war against the Black Russians. And this is a fresco that commemorates one of those wars. All I want you to do is look in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like he's inside of a tent. You see a black man with a crown on his head. Because the people that were ruling Russia, that were fighting against the Tartars, they were black. Clear. Next slide. This is an image from a guy by the name of Fedor the Black. Now, we went over Fedor, the son of Ivan the Terrible. He was not the first Fedor. There was guys that were before him that were called Fedor. The word Fedor, in English, we would say Theodore. Same name, just a lingual shift, same name. This guy's name was Fedor the Black, 1206 AD. And you can see the guy to the right that's above with his wife. That's Fedor the Black. He was the son of Vasily the Dark. You can look these people up in history. So you have a guy named the Black, another guy named the Dark, but these are supposed to be white people, right? These are white people. No. This is why you have the black art that you have in Russia today. The black icons in the cathedrals and the museums today, because black people were ruling over there. As a matter of fact, Russia was one of the last places that we lost. We lost Western Europe first, and we lost Eastern Europe later. Okay? Next slide. Some good sources on the subjects that I went into tonight. Ancient and Modern Britons, that's a famous one. If you don't have that, please add that to your collection. It's a great book. It goes into so much, and I will be pulling a wealth of information out of this book. This is a white author named David McRitchie, who also lived in the early 1900s. I spoke to Brother Ankh about this guy, and he told me McRitchie was pseudo. That's what he said. He says that about everything. He said McRitchie is pseudo. I would have bought that if it wasn't for the fact that Thomas William Shaw wrote the same thing in his books and countless others. The Bible tells us in the mouth of how many witnesses? 2 or 3. So if you have 2 or 3 or 4 white scholars telling you in the early 1900s that these people that ruled Britain were really black, they ain't lying. They're not lying. It's not one guy saying this. It's a wealth of people saying this. Now, the book on the right is called The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles by Dr. John L. Johnson. Family, that's a good brother. And I actually ordered this book from his brother. You can actually go to his website. It's called Johnson Publications. And he actually picks up the phone and will talk to you. And so me and him had a long conversation before I actually brought the book, because I was very impressed with the fact that he actually knew this history, because he's Christian. Not even Israel, he's Christian. So I'm like, damn, how did you know this? And he was like, it's been out there for many. I'm like, that's what I'll be trying to tell people. He's a good brother, man. You call his brother up, purchase this book if you can. and talk to the brother, man. He's a good brother, man. There's a lot of good information in this book as well, right? Go to the next slide. Of course, nature knows no color line. It goes without saying. I showed earlier that Jay Rogers was saying this decades ago. It's not new information. We have new information to add on to what he was already saying. And also, as I just mentioned, Origin of the Anglo-Saxon Race by Thomas William Shaw. That's a good book to couple with Ancient and Modern Britons, because these guys lived around the same time and they were saying the same thing. So no, he was not pseudo. Ankh was just mad because he don't know this stuff. He don't know this stuff. He's going with Google Images. He don't know about the 97% of the artwork that was destroyed. He doesn't know how to deduce these things. You see what I'm saying? So that's why he said what he said. Next slide. Okay, this is some very, very important stuff that I want to talk to the family about, and I'm going to pretty much close out for now because the hour is getting late, and I don't really want to hold everybody on for too long. One of the reasons they destroyed our image, a good scripture to read is Psalms chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. I'm going to read it. It says, "Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing?" The word vain means without value or worthless. It's a worthless thing that the heathen are imagining that they can do. There's no profit to it because it's not going to work. Verse 2, "The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel against the Lord and against his anointed." So when they go against us, they're also going against the Most High, because we're the Most High's anointed, saying, "Let us break their bands asunder." Our bands is what joins us together. It's what joins us together as a nation, our unity. They have broken our bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. What are our cords? Our cord is our lifeline. When you plug your television into the socket, that's where it gets its power from. The television, through its cord, is connected to the power source. What is our power source? Our power source is the Most High Yahweh, God of the universe, the sovereign only one God. He is our power source. What connects us to the Most High? The Torah, the laws, statutes, commandments. That is our connection back to the Father. That is our way back. So they have taken our way back and they've cast it asunder from us. How have they done this? By teaching lies against the Bible. And a lot of our people fall for it. So now they have no more way of being connected back to that power source that we need in order for us to get out the condition that we're in. Let's keep reading. One of the main reasons that they portray great men of Europe as being Caucasian, and in some cases Caucasian homosexuals, is as a stumbling block to our people. When you say men like James VI, Erasmus, and Casiodoro de Reina are portrayed in a negative light in order to make some of our people question the Bible and its validity. Now, I know somebody's wondering, who's Casiodoro de Reina? Casiodoro de Reina is the one that's responsible for translating the Bible into Spanish. That's why you have today what's called the Reina Valera. That's the most accurate translation of the Spanish Bible. It's called La Reina Valera. Okay? What you're going to find out is that the same way that there was accusations about homosexuality that was placed on James when he was translating the Bible, you're going to find out the same tactic was used against Casiodoro de Reina. He was called a homosexual and accused of what they called buggery at the time, or homosexuality, by the Catholic Church through the King of Spain, who was a puppet to the Catholic Church. He was called a homosexual to try to get people to want to kill him so he wouldn't translate the Bible into Spanish. Notice they do the same thing to everybody that translates the Bible. Do you not know that they also say Erasmus was a homosexual, and he's responsible for the Textus Receptus, which is the Hebrew that was used in the King James Bible? Everybody that has something to do with the Bible getting into the English, which is the source that most of us use when we first wake up, they say that they were all homosexuals. That is a tactic. And the tactic is being used to cause us to cast our cords from us, to take our connection to the Most High, which is the Bible, that Torah, and throw it away like we ain't dealing with that no more. It's a tactic. But the elect are not going to fall for that. That's why the scriptures tell us in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect, but it's not possible. Let's keep reading. If we want our people to return to the scriptures, then we must aggressively show our people that their image, we must aggressively show our people their image in the Bible as the Israelites, and also show them that the translators of the Bible and the kings and the queens and all that were involved were also black people, Israelites, even if they would call themselves Christians, so that they can get past the stumbling blocks and move on to the more weighty matters of the Bible, which deal with repentance and the future prophetic judgment of America. When we see what's going on the news right now, it's chaos here in America and all over the world. Tons of things are going on. Now, mainstream media is not reporting everything, so you got to go to alternatives. Like you got to go to Press TV. You might have to go to Russia Today. You might have to go to Al Jazeera News, so forth and so on, to get the real news of what's going on in the world. Like, y'all really need to keep your eyes on Venezuela. What's going on in Venezuela is a test for what they're going to do here, man. There's uber hyperinflation in Venezuela. There's no food. There's no jobs, and it's about to break out a civil war over there. So they declare martial law. Okay, that's getting ready to come here. All these daggone police shootings and different things are all a test case, man, for them to bring in those UN troops and those foreign troops and declare martial law. That's what they want to do. They want to stoke these so-called race riots to have a reason to bring the MJTF, the UN's peacekeeping forces, and other people in our communities. And I told somebody yesterday, if you think the police are bad, wait till your block is being patrolled by foreign troops that don't speak English, much less, and wouldn't give a damn about you. Our people are gonna be dying by the handfuls. It's gonna be crazy, but it's all prophetic. Read the book of 2nd Ezra and the Apocrypha, the 15th chapter. We're in that time now. We're also in the book of Acts all over again. The book of Acts is being repeated all over again, man, where the apostles were tried by the people and by the Romans. Well, we're in that time now. Well, the American government, man, all they're waiting to do is they're waiting to brand the Israelites as a terrorist organization. That's coming. That is coming. Okay? That's why I'm not joining in to any rhetoric that deals with the disrespect of any Israelite camp. Like I see stuff being said about IUIC in different camps. I'm not feeding into that because ultimately the media is going to try to paint us all as being terrorists and traitors and all that. We have to prepare ourselves for that. These are the weightier matters, but the Bible warns us about these things. Let me say that also. I believe it's Isaiah 42:8, where the Most High says, before certain things springs forth, he tells us about them. All right? Amos 3:7, the Most High will do nothing but reveal his secrets to his servants, the prophets. So the Most High already warned us about all the stuff that's going to go down in the Bible. But if our people are not picking up that Bible to read it, to see what's about to come down, as well as to see who they are, so that they can repent for their sins and peradventure be saved, we got to show them this stuff about the people that translated the Bible, the people that were in the Bible, that they were black. We got to start here because this is what woke me up. The first things that I heard when I came to class was this stuff, way before the repentance stuff, and it kind of sparked my interest. So this is the reason why we go into all these different things. I just wanted to make that clear. I'm going to stop it right here for now, Basim. The hour's getting late, and I got to go to work in the morning. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to the presentation. I hope there was one or two things in there that helped you and edified you. And if it wasn't enough, like I said, I have plenty more coming. I promise, family. And for those that's interested, just keep up with me. You can hit me up on Facebook, Daniel Benjamin on Facebook. You can hit me up on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? If you can't find me, just find me through my brother Hellraiser's page. You know what I'm saying? And yo, we here, man. We got the information, man. We got the truth, brothers. This is the truth, man. Don't let nobody fool you. This is the truth. Scriptures say, be not children tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine, family. This is the truth. No matter what nobody say, stick with it. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to the brother Basim.
Well, first of all, let me just start by saying bravo. Bravo. Ladies and gentlemen, Priest Danyaahla of the Lions of Israel. Danyaahla, I know you got to go, but I just need 2 minutes because I want to make sure the family knows everything you got going on. So, you can find Danyaahla. He's on Facebook. He's on the IG. Hellraiser of Sons of Man and Wu-Tang Clan affiliate, and his website, hellraiserdigital.com, has been very, very influential in helping us do some promotion and letting the people know what's going on. You can find Priest Danyahla's websites. I'm going to give them to you one more time. His first website is www.therealjewsarblack.com. Also, the official website for Danyahla's camp is www.lionsofisrael.org. Okay? So, Danyaahla, I appreciate you dedicating your time to the people tonight. I definitely enjoyed that presentation myself. I just want to, man, it's been an honor. You know, it's been a privilege, and I want to personally thank all the brothers that stepped up to show Danyaahla support tonight and make sure that he got the attention and the audience, you know, that Priest Danyaahla deserves when he puts together a presentation and dedicates his time, you know, especially during, you know, the Monday through Friday grind. So that was a journey into the dark ages from Priest Danyaahla, a global media production sponsored by Hellraiser Digital, also sponsored by the MightyHebrew.com. Danyaahla, did you want to mention anything about your YouTube channels before we let you go, good brother?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I have a couple of YouTube pages. One YouTube page I have is called Yahweh's Watchmen. Yahweh's Watchmen. It's on YouTube. We have Long Live Yahweh Shai. That's also on YouTube. We have those are the main two as well. You know, that's pretty much it, family. Like, you know, I'm gonna have other YouTube pages that I'm gonna be putting and posting up, you know, in the future if it be the Most High as well. But those are the main two for now. You can always reach us, like you said, on our website, the Lions of Israel. I apologize, it's not .org, it's .com. TheLionsofIsrael.com or TheRealJewsAreBlack.com. Again, I want to thank the panel, everybody that tuned in. You know, it was definitely an honor and a pleasure to, you know, build with you brothers. And you know, I hope to see some of you, in, you know, when we do the main lecture. Myself and Hashar, the brother Hashar, big up AOC, by the way, big up to the AOC camp. My man, the General Hashar, and myself, man, we're working on another big event, if it be the Most High's will, sometime in the early fall. You know, he got some fire he wants to put out there. And we know that people love the brother Hashar, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, we don't get too much of him, but when he come, he definitely be coming. So he'll definitely be doing something with myself in the early fall, if it be the Most High's will. We'll definitely promote that. You know, and that's pretty much it, man. You know, I love all the brothers, man. I appreciate everybody joining in, man. I hope everybody got something from this. If you came on late, just go on to Basim's channel and watch the information, you know what I'm saying, for yourself and look into it. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Danyaahla. This once I edit this and add your official logos and add your websites to it, it will definitely be up. If you need access to the information for your websites, for your social media, for your platforms, feel free to reach out. But once again, man, we thank you. That was powerful.
Yes,
I'm now.
yes. Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's mic is.
That was an expensive education right there, and
Man, that was powerful.
extremely.
Go ahead, speak on it. Speak on it, Reza, and then I'm gonna let Mighty Hebrew and the other brothers go.
I don't even think schools is teaching that kind of stuff right there, and that's facts that he was talking. It wasn't myth or fiction, not at all.
No, I appreciate you, King, man. Razor, you already know, King. I appreciate you, man. We gotta link up, bro. We gotta link up, man.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to get this now because I'm gonna blast this all over the place, just going everywhere.
Hallelujah. Praise, all praise, all praise.
Because this the Most High's work, man. It gotta get shown. It gotta get seen, man. And people need to know this kind of stuff because they brainwashed, man.
Yeah.
And it's not personal, you know what I'm saying?
Not at all. Not at all. The truth is never personal. The truth is what it is. It doesn't need no help. It doesn't have no agenda. It just is what it is. You see what I'm saying? And so we have to wherever the information takes us, we just have to go there with that and be open to it, man. And that's pretty much it, family. So I just want to say, man, I love all y'all brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? The brothers I never met, the brothers I met, you know what I'm saying? Everybody that tuned in, everybody on the comment board, you know what I'm saying? That's, showing love, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? You know how we do, man. Israel, Kwam Yasha'Allah, Israel is rising.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop this, man. And Razor, we're gonna talk, Razor. You already know, King.
Yes, King. It's gonna keep going.
All right. Basim, if there's anything else you need from me, Kings, I'm about to.
No, sir. You've done plenty tonight, and we appreciate your time. I'm gonna let our respected panelists speak, and then I'll be closing out the live stream. But thank you, Danyaahla. Take it away, Mighty Hebrew.
I enjoyed that, priest Danyaahla.
Hallelujah. All praise.
You know I had to push this thing, man. You came forth and you brought forth truth. I want to give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, eternal, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, for, giving you the power and the force to bring forth what needed to be brought forth. It's a known fact that we ruled in the dark ages from the 5th century to the 15th century, even a little bit further when you even start talking about the Assyrian Empire and the breakdown, of the northern kingdom of ancient Israel and remnants of them going into, Asia and Europe and ruling under different names such as the Carthaginians and the Phoenicians and things of that nature. I just wanted real quick to show this image right here, because the brother was bringing out a lot of information, especially on J.A. Rogers and others about icons. And I'm gonna bring up a picture right here. Here's a picture so y'all can see. Y'all see this picture right here? I'm coming close up.
Mighty Hebrew. Yeah, hold it up to the camera, and let me adjust the options so the audience can see it. 1 second, good brother.
Okay.
All right. Yes, indeed.
Now this is a actual archaic picture of a person by the name of St. Patrick. Now, if you look, you see the crown, David, correct? Look at that. That is dated 1412 to 1421. There it is right there. What about right here? Look at some more coats of arms. Look at the French. Look at the French and Italians and Spanish and Polish families. Here you go right here. Look. We ain't making it up. I thought we were just making this stuff. Right there as a part of their voice. There it is right there. Am I lying?
Powerful.
Priest and Allah, he wasn't lying. Look at us. Let's take it over. Boom. Thank you. Beautiful, right? So it's definitely a privilege to have somebody like Priest Danyaahla come on and bring forth a powerful presentation that he did. It was real interesting to prove, and I mean, this is just a brief synopsis that he brought forth, showing and proving that those, of the line of King James and them was black. And this is also going to be brought forth in one of my writings that's called Who Were Europe's True Kings and Queens During the Dark Ages, and I show and prove that in the Dark Ages that the term is actually been given a hidden meaning for ignorance or the lack of knowledge, but this is far from the truth. The term the Dark Ages signifies when the dark nations ruled in Europe. And this is the truth. And it was, in fact, people that are known as the Black Moorish Bronze Hebrew Israelites that ruled in Europe during the Dark Ages. In ancient times, many attacks on the land of Israel and the various Bronze Hebrew Israelite captivities caused some of our Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalistic ancestors to migrate into Europe, where we pushed out a lot of the Edomitic and Japhetic tribes. And we became the kings and queens of Europe for over 1,000+ years. Our ancestors were said to have migrated into two main subgroups. One were known as the Scythians, and some known as the Sumerians. These two, not to get confused with Sumerians, but Cimmerians, spelled Cimmerians. These two would then split into two groups. Now, for our people, because like Priest Danyaahla already said, we've been so confused when we read books and looking at the so-called iconic pictures, which are really whitewashed pictures. It gives us a different view of history. For instance, what we've been taught about the barbarians, that was false. The term barbarian is something that the Greeks and the Romans called the black cults, the Scots, the Goths, the Britons, the Gypsies, the Danes, the Anglo-Saxons, or what we know as the angel sons of Isaac, the Vikings, the Irish. Irish is a Hebrew word which means angry man. In Hebrew means angry, which means man. When you say Irish, you're saying angry man. The so-called barbarian tribes settled all throughout Europe they were set up as sun-dried, majestic kingdoms. France, Britain, Germany, Poland, Romania, Sweden, all over through Europe. The original kings and queens of Europe during this time were Hebrew Israelite nationals. The so-called Europeans in this time in history were living like savages. They were living like savages. And when you break down the word Caucasian, it's Caucasus Asia or they're Asian. From these dark age kingdoms came great black Hebrews such as King James. Yes, King James. Man authorized the translation of the 1611 version Bible.
Mighty Hebrew, you're definitely teaching, but something's wrong with your connection and your mic. We can't hear you. I want you to repeat what you said. We couldn't hear you, good brother.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Go ahead.
Okay, because I hear like a little static, a little rattling, but can you hear me a little bit better?
Yeah, we hear you a little better now. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so like what Priest Danyaahla was saying, it's true. When you study up about King Arthur, Richard the Lionheart, I'm talking about all of them. When you talk about all the different prominent, well-respected so-called Europeans during the Dark Ages, their information was whitewashed. Joan of Arc, all of them. When we go to Job chapter 9, verse 24, it gives us the understanding how they would cover, how they would cover the faces and their forges of lies. So we know what's going on. When we study the 16th century all the way to the 1800s, you'll see that our forefathers and foremothers would lose power when the so-called whites with the hubs of the Edomitic tribes known as the Amalekites or the so-called Jews, they was the ones that elevated in high position. And these Hebrew Israelites that lost the battle of their kingdoms while they were fighting amongst themselves, these so-called whites would rise up, conquer us in war and sell us into the Western Hemisphere. And some of the Hebrew Israelites would capture and ship to the Americas to be enslaved. This is a fact. And this is why there were, during slavery times, advertisements in America for slaves that spoke perfect French, Spanish, and other languages, and many other Euro-Gentile languages in a time when our ancestors were not allowed to read the bastard language known as English. Our ancestors weren't just imported from Western Africa, but from their own kingdoms that became conquered throughout Europe. We see this during the reign of King John II of Portugal, who ruled from 1481 to 1495 CE. In 1484 CE, he shipped many of our Hebrew Israelite nationalistic ancestors to the island of Sam Toms, off of the west coast of Africa. Also, if we go into Angola and we go into the Songo and the Tocobaco, also known as the Pivobahu, they're Hebrew Israelites from Angola. Their ancestors were deportees from Portugal. Many of these Hebrew Israelites of the land of Angola came to Portugal. Came from the Santom Island. From 1561 to 1626, Angola was a Portuguese colony. Knowing all this gives us a clear understanding of this information dealing with the dark ages of Europe. And I mean, I can go on and on and on, but Priest Danyaahla gave a powerful presentation proving about the Israelites being in Europe. And also, because I can't let this slide, even when you're dealing in scientific knowledge in Europe, we commemorate the Moors, okay, which are in fact Israelites, some that practice Islam, others that upheld the Hebrew culture. But we commemorate the Moors without speaking about their Israelite uniqueness and heritage. We were the ones that brought forth scientific advancement. And briefly, I just want to share quickly the people that brought forth scientific advancement, if that's okay with you, Brother Bassel.
Please speak freely, tribal minister. I also want to shout out the brother Divine Prospect. He's going to be speaking after you, Mighty Hebrew. I saw Elder Gabar. Let me give my shout outs real quick. I want to shout out Elder Gabar and Deacon Awanya Sap from GOCC New York. They in the chat. I want to shout the Sorry Set. They're in the chat. The brother from Seattle that's affiliated with Guerrilla Hebrew. Shalom to you, good brother. Thank you for tuning in. I want to shout out the boys from MBK. I want to shout out Devar, Amaziah, G-Con. Just let me give a couple shout outs and the mic is yours, Mighty Hebrew. We're going to let Divine Prospect speak. We're definitely going to let Divine Prospect speak after you. But yeah, shout out to Devar, Amaziah, the boys at MBK. Shout out to Sakari, Seattle, Hebrew Israelites, GOCC, New York, Elder Gabar, Deacon Awanyan Sap. Shout out to Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. Nasi Yashavel was joining us. Big shout out to Nasi. Really quick, August 5th through the 8th, down in Georgia, Nasi Yashavel, on behalf of Shomrei HaTorah, is putting on his Hebrew Israelite Unity Summit camping trip. They're going to be barbecuing. They're going to be camping out. They're going to be fishing. There's canoes there. There's going to be demonstrations and lessons from mixed martial artists. There's going to be several prominent guest speakers giving lectures, all kinds of lessons. If you can support it and make it, I have the contact information, but you should feel free to reach out to Nasi Yashavel. The flyer's already on Facebook, August 5th through August 8th. That is spearheaded by Shomrei HaTorah. I believe Yashavel's wife, Ro, is in charge of all the reservations, arrangements, and pricing. So big shout out to Nasi Yashavel, Shomrei HaTorah, and all the work that brother's doing. Please speak freely, Mighty Hebrew.
Kane, I just wanted to go back just a little bit when I was talking about the Cerinthians and the Sumerians. And from the beginning, what I was saying about the two subgroups being broken down, and some of them were called barbarians. From my research and information, it is a fact that these two dark-skinned groups can be traced back to the land of Israel. From deep research and from many of our Hebrew Israelite teachers from the past that came before us, they found out that the Sumerians, not Sumerian, but Sumerians, is derived from the word Samaria. Samaria was the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel, and Jerusalem was the capital of the southern kingdom of Israel, known as Judah, in the book of 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1, and Isaiah 7, verse 9. The other nations called the Sumerians because we were fully aware of our Hebrew Israelite heritage. The so-called Sumerians created a clan from out of themselves called the Celts. The Celts were of Shemitic origin, and they were descendants of the firstborn son of Noah, whose name was Shem. When the Celts were in Europe, later in history, they would build what we know today as the Stonehenge, and they created a priestly caste system known as the Druids. They were known as Canaan Bel, or in Hebrew, priests of Baal. These Celtic Druid priests, even though they were bronze, black, Moorish, Hebrew, Israelite people, they became an evil group of people, sacrificing thousands of human beings during the end of the summer to an evil demon called Satan. He was said to be the Lord of death, of wicked spirits. He's known as a ghostly skeleton holding a sickle in his hand. He became later known as the Grim Reaper. These Israelites that were born, the black Moorish Celts, created what we know today as Halloween or Sunlan, which is the Celtic term. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands of human remains beneath Stonehenge because of the human sacrifices that they did. And they even practiced the eating of human flesh, becoming what we call today cannibals. The word cannibal is from the ancient Hebrew compound word Cain and Bel, which means priest Bel. People should never be turned back to. This is a wicked day. From the Celtic Israelite clan, they gave birth to another group called the Iberians, who would inhabit Spain. This is where the Iberian Peninsula derived its name from. Iberia is the Celtic word from Hebrew, which was the original language. And as we all know on this phone line, we are Hebrews when we read in Jeremiah chapter 34, verse 9, and also history outside the scripture. And if any of us travel to Spain, they'll take note of a river called the Ebro, which comes from the Hebrew word Ibar or Ivri or Iber.
Mighty Hebrew, we can't. Mighty Hebrew, we can't hear nothing you're saying, my man. Could you try jumping out, coming back in? Your mic. You can ask Taylor B. You can ask anybody to hang out. The audience can't hear you. I can't hear you. It's nothing but static and robot. Did anybody hear him?
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can. Yeah, finish up. Go ahead, brother.
Where did I leave? What was the last thing you heard of me say?
You were talking about if we were to go to Spain or overseas today, right now.
Okay, good. Okay, so like I was saying, if you go and travel over to Spain, you'll find a river there called Ebro. Some people spell it E-B-R-O, which comes from the Hebrew word Eber or Ibar. Okay, the word Eber means past or ancient. Some people try to translate it to mean crossover. Like anybody that does any Dodak or know anything about Hebrew grammar, the past tense is Avri. It means past. This is because Eber would be the Hebrew ancestor of the 12 tribes who would keep their culture alive. So the Eber River is in fact a Hebrew river. This is more facts proving that the ancient inhabitants of Spain were bronze, black, Moorish Hebrews. And if we were to travel northward across the Atlantic Ocean, lies the island called Ireland. I already explained earlier, I'm about to get into it again, about the word Irish. If one views any ancient maps, they will find out that Ireland was first called Hibernia, spelled Hibernia. This word derived from the word Hebrew. The word Irish is a Hebrew word, Irish, meaning angry man. Also, off the west coast of Scotland, on the island of St. Kilda, we have a 500 subgroup. We have 500 subgroup land called Hebrides, meaning Hebrew. These bronze Israelites that inhabited this land in the 1700s still was dealing with the ancient Hebrew Israelite measurements of Omer and the cubic that we can find in Exodus chapter 25:10, 16:33 and 36. Also, as priest Danyaahla beautifully broke down, the word brigand does mean men of the covenant or covenant land. When we break down this word Brit-ish, Brit means covenant, Ish means man. Okay? It is our ancestors that created the British Empire, not the descendants of Prince Charles. Now you got the Scythians, Scythians. Now, these brothers and sisters set up several clans and dwelt in southern Russia in the 7th century BCE. It was said that the Cerinthians were called Sak or Saka by the Elamites, or the descendants that brought forth the Persians. These terms trace back to our Hebrew forefather named Isaac, Yitzhak, or in ancient Hebrew, Yatzachah. Our nation is also known as the house of Isaac in Exodus chapter 3:15 and Amos 7:16. So the foreign nations was calling us Cerinthians or Cynthians, or the sons of Isaac. One can go to the Russian museums and view many gravestones that archaeologists have unearthed and find ancient Hebrew inscriptions, and also the Jukes or Jukes, who were an offshoot of these same people. They were offshoot. And the word Juk comes from the ancient Hebrew word Yahweh or Yahudah, which is one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Then we have the Anglo-Saxons, which he already broke down, mean angel sons of Isaac. Many other nations dropped the I from Isaac, making it Sak. Then the root son was then added to it. So we see Saxton, or the sons of Isaac. Scholars today have proven that the original dialects that the Anglo-Saxons spoke came from Hebrew. These dialects are known as Celtic, English, Welsh, Cornish, and some Germanic tongues really come from Hebrew. And much of the early British literature was inscribed in Hebrew. The Saxons and the Anglo-Saxons were two different clans. The so-called Saxons were Euro Gentiles, and the Anglo-Saxons were Hebrew Israelites. We know that we can also look at the coats of arms. All throughout the coats of arms, it shows us, okay, without a shadow of a doubt, that these were Israelites, because on the coats of arms, you see the shield of David. And then we can go into many books to prove what we're talking about. You can go to books, and I'm going to name these few books, and I'm going to close out. But it's a known fact that King James was a black man who authorized the 1611 translation of the Bible. To Attila the Hunnish conqueror, who was the source of God, question mark, 1454 CE, was a so-called black man. Justinian, the Bronze Byzantine Emperor, Lucius Septimius Civius, 193 CE, not he broke down the Roman Empire, not to get confused with the Holy Roman Empire. Vlad Dracula the Impaler. He wasn't a vampire, he was a real black Romanian prince that ruled during the 15th century, 1431 CE to 1476 CE. Richard the Lionheart, the King of England, and leader of the Third Crusade of 1157 and 1199. Henry VIII, founder of the Anglican Church, the great-grand uncle of King James. Charlemagne, the great black Frankish ruler and first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, 768 to 814 CE. Ivan the Terrible, William the Conqueror, all of them. Go to the books, and these are the books that I got this information from. You can go to Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference by Cohen Mikael Ben Israel. You can go to Newer Israelite Knowledge by Ben Yisrael, Elder Adam Ben Yisrael, and Moray Avajiyahu Ben Ephraim, and Elder H Ben Ephraim. You can go to J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Line, and Section Race Volume 1. You can go to Joseph J. Williams, Hebrewisms of West Africa, Alvin Van Sertima, African President of Early Asia, James Andar, The History of the American Indians, the Mount Zion Bible School, The Shield of David and His Other Biblical Symbols, Ben Ephraim, Elder H. Niggers, The True Children of Israel, Adam Rottenford, Anglo-Saxon Israel or Israel Britain, Rudolph R. Windsor, The Valley of the Dry Bones, Thomas Howard, Anglo-Israel, Sheikh Anta Diop, Pre-Colonial Black Africa, Jacob Stevens and Moses Farrar, The Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, Ashanti, West African Traditional Religions, and the Holy Tanakh, and Allah H. Gabe, Lost Tribes of Myth. And it goes on and on and on. You know, Ancient Modern Break Times, David McRich. So we have tons and tons of primary sources that we can pull without a shadow of in Europe during the Dark Ages. And with that dude, whatever his name is, Dr. James White, state about this person white and that person not being white. I'm saying because as we see tonight, was in it a power.
Mighty Hebrew, I'm gonna let Divine Prospect go. Can you drop out and come back in? Your mics, it's impossible to hear you, good brother. I apologize. You were on a roll. I don't know why it's doing that, but we couldn't hear anything. Divine Prospect, please fill in with some commentary until he fixes that, and we'll definitely come back to the Mighty Hebrew. What did you think of tonight's presentation? Big shout out to Divine Prospect, the Kingdom Harbinger.
Shalom, shalom, Mishpachah. Peace to you, Brother Basim. Priest Danyaahla laid out a lot of good groundwork, and the framework in which he established is going to cause a lot of research from this point forward from a lot of us that taking a lot for granted. It's some information that he shared that I've never seen before. Some stuff I am familiar with. So, you know, I can never say there's a lack of data that he actually presents that is not gonna, always gonna take a good amount of time for us to go back and research and delve into and be edified by. So I definitely gotta applaud him for making that valiant effort to disseminate this information in the face of the naysayers, to at least have them address what was said before them making these presuppositional arguments that is not based on looking at the evidence that he has provided first and foremost. So I want to definitely give a shout out to Priest Danyaahla for putting in that work tonight and giving me something to go back to and look into. So I definitely appreciate that. So good work, my brother, like always. Mighty Hebrew was also bringing out some information too. Some I'm familiar with, some things I'm not. Got to go back and research it. But the bottom line is just that we have a think tank system of data that we have been disseminating for a long period of time that is being overlooked because people want to continue to use the blanket term pseudo to get people who are inquiring for truth to overlook some of the information that we purport and that we use to support our assertions. And I think that it's a grave disservice to the audience anytime somebody dismisses something without the proper and appropriate methodology to investigation and determine whether or not a claim that's being asserted is factual, true, or is something that is agenda-driven or subjective and not attempting to be objective for the sole purpose of edifying the listeners. So I definitely got to applaud all the work that we're doing collectively as a community in the face of academia. All I want to do is just throw a few points out there. I'm not going to be long because I definitely, you know, I'm working on other things and I'm also listening at the same time. But I just want to give some references for the audience to go back and research to see certain things that was occurring politically in Europe at the time. The most important thing is to understand what was the purpose of the Alhambra Decree. Okay, the Alhambra Decree was put forth and it was finally satisfied after the Christendom Reconquista campaigns that was done to exile Black Moors, which consisted of those who subscribed to Islam and those who subscribed to what the world calls Judaism, right? These were Black indigenous individuals who had spiritual systems that they were utilizing to set up kingdoms and other establishments and institutions in the Iberian Peninsula. You have to go back and research the Catholic monarchs, Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon. They had what's called the Grenada War in 1482 to 1492. All right, you have to also look into the Dominicans, right? The Dominicans was a extension of the Catholic Church that was purposely designed to blanket this information in regards to the truth when they made their way over here in missionary excursions in the West. You know, and a lot of people overlook that because we just know about the Dominican Republic, but we don't know what a Dominican is. What is the origin of Dominican, their extension from the Roman Catholic Church, their purpose in coming over here, and also the things that they have attempted in Europe as well. So we have to understand that Christendom is the political reign of the quote unquote system of Christianity. It was not utilized as a spiritual enhancement culture. It was designed to superimpose a political reign, rule, and tributary to an entity that was greater than indigenous people that lived in the land. And if you don't understand these particular expeditions from the lens of those who were initiating Christendom, then all of this information that was being brought out tonight is going to be severely overlooked. All right, so I want people to go back and look up the Alhambra Decree, the Catholic monarchs of Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon, the Grenada War, which was waged in 1482 to 1492. Also, the name of the Iberian Peninsula was consisted of Portugal and Spain, which we colloquially call it today, was called Al-Andalus. Al-Andalus, all right? And Al-Andalus was the name of that piece of land when it was being ruled by black Moors, all right? The extension of time in which it was being ruled was over 700 years that they had that peninsula on lockdown. And it was a threat to the quote-unquote establishment of Christendom by way of the Roman Catholic Church, because the intent of the Dark Ages was to keep the wealth of information and institutionalized knowledge into the hands of the oligarchy who were ruling the Catholic Church. So when you have these quote-unquote spiritual systems that are being brought by the black Moors onto the Iberian Peninsula, and this information is being used to enlighten the natives there, which most of them, or a great deal of them, being people of color, you have an issue, because now the person who teaches culture controls identity. The person who teaches culture controls identity. If I come into your community and I teach you culture, I will be the person responsible with who you identify with, and whatever information I give you, you identify with as well. So the objective wasn't just a political thing, but it's also institutionalized information concerning identity. The worst thing that can happen to a person is a loss of identity, which gives you a loss of status. And this is what was attempted to be established by the black Moors in that peninsula with the indigenous people that had already lived there. Another thing that people need to look into is a lot of the indigenous spiritual systems that the quote-unquote pagans, and I'm using that term properly because it means a country dweller. The pagans who were on the outskirts of society, because the inner cities were being built up by those who was establishing Christendom in Europe. The pagans were always at war with the establishment of Christendom because it was superseding and it was attempting to eradicate the indigenous way that the people had that was on the European continent. And a lot of times we don't understand that those indigenous ways had to do with ancestral reverence. Those indigenous ways had to do with reverence in nature. Those indigenous ways had to do with building altars. Those indigenous ways had to go was a worship that went to the creator and not to the creation. I mean, you have to look at the wealth of these indigenous systems that were in Europe prior to Christendom asserting itself in that region. So I want people to go back and look at these points of reference, because this stuff is deep, because we're not taught that in orthodoxy institutions. Because the moment we understand the culture that was in that area, the more we can identify with what was going on at that time and not disconnect ourselves under the term of quote unquote black, or the nationality of quote unquote black.
Divine Prospect, can you do me a favor, good brother? Can you, the mighty Hebrew, Yaakov, and Alvin, hold it down for me while I step away for about 3 to 4 minutes? You're going in, and all these brothers have so much powerful information to add. I do need to step away for about 3 to 4 minutes. But Alvin, Divine, Yaakov, mighty Hebrew, D. Miller, feel free to have your discussion. Divine, you're definitely going in. Just one at a time. Pass the mic when you're done, and I'll be back in like 3 to 4 minutes, good brothers. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, Devon, go ahead, just keep talking. I'm listening to what you're talking about, man.
I'm
You're on roll right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you just moderate for him, Alvin, because that's what you do best. So,
Yeah,
uh,
Divine,
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
take.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Divine P, take as much time as you need, brother.
okay, no problem. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Just cause everybody cool with just letting Divine go, cause you know he laying down a lot of information. Everybody cool with that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
everybody will have a chance. Let him go in.
Hey, do your thing, Divine.
I
Okay, cool.
appreciate.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Continue, man.
I appreciate that, Akeem. All right, so the point I'm trying to make is that when we don't understand the political systems and the control of Europe, why Europe was very, very important for the Roman Empire to attempt to control, and what was finished with the Roman Catholic Church. The control of Europe. Europe had a lot of intellectual property that was being used in that region because you had so many people that were escaping the Byzantine Empire, and those who were coming into the end of the Byzantine Empire to usurp it from the ground up and to place people in it who are people of color. So the reason why I'm saying this is because you had a lot of escapees or exiles that were going to Europe, and they were keeping their spiritual systems, they were keeping their ancestral bloodline information, all of these things that were maintaining in Europe, and these people were doing so without having a central oligarchy to rule and control. There were various tribes that were living in Europe at that time. So you got to understand the tribal mindset, having a tribal mindset, being self-governing by way of autonomy with culture at the core or the foundation is a threat to the establishment of the political entity of Christendom, because now you don't have the quote unquote vicar of Christ that is ruling the world that they felt was given to them. And we have to understand that the moment that they allow these quote unquote Europeans, these indigenous Europeans, to keep their intellectual property, it was always pose a threat to the Roman Catholic Church or Christendom. So we had this pseudo revolution called the Renaissance that came about. And the purpose of the Renaissance and the Renaissance that built on top of the initial Renaissance that came by way of Italy was a campaign to whitewash all of the stuff that was going on in Europe after the expulsion in 1492 of these black Moors, consistent of the Sephardim and consistent of the Muslims that was there. So we have to understand that the whitewashing had to take place because the moment you expel, or the moment you exile these ex-rulers who had communities and institutions and so forth, bringing the data from the House of Wisdom to the Iberian Peninsula, etc., the next step is you have to whitewash the history, because if you allow the history to stay as is with all the icons of imagery that are there, the people will always think twice or think critically to say, wait a second, there was a much richer history that was here than what we're being led on to believe. So this pseudo renaissance has been instituted as a means of revolutionizing the information that was already in the minds of the people that were in that region, so that way successive descendants will buy into the fact that all of this was white history. There was no indigenous people that lived here. So we have to look up the Renaissance and see how it spread from Italy, made its way all the way to the rest of Europe, and how we have what's called the Hegelian dialectic that was being played by the Roman Catholic Church. You need a thesis, an antithesis to create your synthesis. So in order for them to be the thesis, which is the establishment of quote unquote Christianity or Christendom, they have to institute an antithesis, so that way they can control it from within, put them together to frustrate one another, and only propose a solution to the people that is in accordance with the political agenda of the entity that is in full control of both competing sides. This is how they were able to completely eradicate a lot of the data that's being shared online today, because not only did they expel those who were the threat to continue to perpetuate the true history, but also the whitewashing of imagery, of knowledge, of data, of etc. Because if that was left behind, people will wake up and they will repulse the rule that has been exerted over them. So I just wanted to give some points of reference to the people to go back and research, and I also wanted the people to understand the political climate that was occurring in Europe at that time, and to go back to look at these indigenous tribes that lived there before they were being controlled by Christianity. Look up the Vandals, look up the Visigoths, look up the Anglo-Saxons that was being discussed today. Look up all of these tribes that were living in Europe at the time, and their spiritual systems before Christendom usurped them and established its rule and reign in the kingdom that they call of the European continent. So this is complementary to what was being said earlier, and I just wanted to give these points of reference, so that way there's a degree of affluency. We see the degree of affluency by this Christian system and the advocacy that played behind it in its attempt to usurp the indigenous knowledge of the people that were there, and to prevent anybody from the quote-unquote Middle East, which is a false nomenclature, and also that of Africa from having dominance in Europe, where Christendom was trying to assert itself because it was losing its grips of control in Byzantium and other areas such as North Africa, etc. So the final frontier of control was Europe, and this is why a lot of its concerted efforts was moved into that continent to establish the reign and rule of the political entity called Christendom, to ensure that from that ruling spot they can fan out and enact colonialism and imperialism to promote this whitewashing into other areas of the world as well. This is where we got a lot of our imperialism, the quote-unquote slave trade, all right, which was perverted by the Europeans, and they turned it into something it was not intended to be. It was always a form of indentured servitude where a person can work their way up to a particular status, and in some extreme cases, excuse me, it was just as bad as the Europeans. But the difference was, the moment I can remove you from the domicile that you have inheritable rights upon, the land of the domicile of your inheritable rights, and remove you and displace you into another region, and I'm the one controlling the political matters in regards to the statutes dictating what the status is of a person establishing themselves on this new piece of land, I will continue and perpetually be in control of the court system that will rule whether or not you are allowed these inalienable rights that is afforded to you when you had your foot touched down on a domicile of land that was from your ancestors. This is why the disconnecting of us from the land in which we touched our feet on, which we established communities and kingdoms on, we had to be removed from it, so that way they can be the ones in charge of the court system that will rule what indigenous status is and what inalienable rights are afforded to you, because we did not have the quote-unquote power or the leverage in order to create these world court systems ourselves, in order to establish these rites of passage to ensure that our descendants will continue to lay hold of the inheritable rights that they had before they got disconnected to the land. That's why historical continuity to nationality is very, very prominent, and it's very, very important. And we have to look up even the term race to see why that word and that ideology was instituted again during this Renaissance period, because the purpose of it is to create a quote-unquote black space over the people of tribes and separate them from the historical continuity of the ownership of land, of rights, and of power that they had, in order to have the position of advocacy, and why the quote-unquote term race was designed to disconnect these tribes from this inheritance. Hence why the word nations had to turn into races. And when you look at the transition of this wordplay, you'll see why this umbrella was propped up to prevent the reign of knowledge from entering those who they were grouping under this umbrella term of race, because they have to disconnect you from your tribal inheritance. And again, this happened in Europe, this happened in parts of West Africa, this happened to the Israelites when they were in the Levant region. This even happened to quote-unquote some of the Kemetic individuals who made their way out of Kemet in other areas of Africa because of what was going on in the realm of Kemet as well. So this is a great area of study that we need to continue to invest our time, energy, and effort in, and create think tanks to preserve this information. It's one thing to protect and secure, but to preserve it so that way we can ensure via technology that we can institute that this information continues to pass on to further generations, because it's getting lost and it's getting confused and confounded with a whole bunch of misinformation and people throwing the term pseudo around, so that way you won't study the things that tie you back to your inheritance. And with that, I pass it on to the next speaker.
Hey
Excellent.
man, oh yeah, go ahead, brother. Mike, you got some comments, bro?
No, I was just saying that was excellent. I mean, everything is falling in place. This whole presentation, A Journey to the Dark Ages, is falling in place. Priest Danyaahla just brought forth a powerful presentation. I mean, I don't know if Divine Prospect know it or not. He just brought a powerful presentation dealing on that issue. And I just want to quote a couple of scholars and then pass it on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let each person just speak, and in between I want to quote
a couple of primary scholars, because a lot of people keep saying that we don't have primary sources. So I just want to read a couple of people's out of their own mouths. J.A. Rogers in 1967, page 76, makes this statement in the revised Nature Knows No Color line. He says, the Huns, a Negro Mongolian people who overran Europe. The Huns had swirly skins, flat noses, and fuzzy hair. Also, he said in the same book, there are very probably the Celtic Barians, meaning those that probably were in the region of Iberia, or the Black Celts who took civilization. Tatius described them as swirly black with curly hair. That's on page 151. Okay? Then you got McRitchie in the book Ancient and Modern Britons. He says that the wild tribes of Ireland were black men. It's hinted by the fact that a wild Irishman is in Celtic a black Irishman. Last one, Alvin Van Sertima. He says black Huns, black Egyptians, pagans, memories of the blacks, Moorish, black conquest, the black Douglases, the black families in early Scotland, the sons of the black Dans, and the black oppressors. So we have prominent scholars clearly giving us information and facts that there were black prominent families that ruled in Europe, and I'm only using the term black loosely. But to identify, you had Moorish nationals and Israelite nationals that lived in Europe as ruling powers that built these majestic kingdoms all throughout Europe, in Scotland, in France, in Poland, okay, in Sicily, in Britain, in Spain, or Iberia, which Spain and Portugal was one at one time. All this is verified and documented, you know, in many books. And when my book come out, Our True History, Our Heritage, the Diaspora, and Our Freedom, that'll be out in a week and a half, I explain briefly. But the next book that I'm bringing out, Who Were Europe's True Kings and Queens During the Dark Ages, I show and give you prominent primary sources going into their universities as well as their libraries over in Europe, that's going to show that we ruled during the Europe's dark ages from the 5th century to the 15th century. So I pass the mic on to another person who's there to take the mic to bring forth the light from the darkness of the dark ages.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's some good info. The brother laid out. I wanted to comment on a couple of things. I was gonna go last. Miller, did you have anything to say? I know you're knowledgeable as far as the history of the Moors or whatever, and their influence during these time periods in the Middle Ages. You have any input on what the brother Divine laid out? Brother Miller?
Peace.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Peace. I was going to say, I didn't hear everything that was laid down, but I did hear a good amount of what Brother Divine Prospect laid down. I felt that, it was solid. So if I were to add anything with regards to that, I would just say, there are some very interesting events that happened in that time period. I recommend that people genuinely look into it. I think something that is a part of that history, a major part of that history, is the Silk Road. So I'd highly recommend that people kind of look into, the nature of the Silk Road during the Dark Age.
Quick question, Brother Miller. Now the brother just brought up the Huns, okay, and when you're dealing with the Silk Road during this Middle Ages, like 1200, you got to be dealing with the Mongolians during this time, Genghis Khan and all them boys. Like, what is the connection between these Mongols, the Silk Road, the Moors, the Catholics? There's a lot of stuff going on in there. You got any comments on that?
Yeah, actually, the Mongols are associated with the spreading of a lot of culture, a lot of civilization. Under the Mongols, I'm not going to say that the Mongols are Moors or anything like that, but I will say there's a similarity between the two, and it was the idea that um, many different cultures flourished. The arts, the sciences, they flourished under the hands of certain groups of people at a given time on the Silk Road or during the time period of the Silk Road. So yeah, the Mongols, they're definitely associated with, capitalizing on the Silk Road for a time, being the main controllers for a time. And yeah, as far as culture and what have you is concerned, people were Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, all of that existed within that civilization.
Brother B, you got any question? Oh, go ahead, brother. Mighty Hebrew, go ahead. You got something to say?
That's Taylor B. I want it real quick. Everybody, go to BTV. She's in the chat. I'll post a link to her channel. That's the Queen Miss
I said
Taylor
brother
B.
My bad. Sister B.
It's all good. You didn't know. Yeah, she's part of the Wu-Tang affiliate, Sons of Man family. She's got her own platform. She's got her own radio station.
I used to listen to them.
Yeah, she's got her own radio show in Philly. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat. But subscribe to BTV as soon as you get a chance. Go ahead, Mighty Hebrew.
Absolutely, absolutely. I got a whole bunch of books here, primary sources. So what I'm trying to do is, since everybody's like bringing forth portions of presentations, I'm also trying to bring out like sources and references. So when the people hear this, because we still live, they can actually go to these sources. But here's some more information. We always heard about a man by the name of Halfdan the Black, the first king to unite Norway. We heard about him, and as well as Thorhard, the Black Viking, and Kenneth the Black, who was the king of Scotland. The Gethetic nations in ancient times that inhabited Europe were clearly a black, dark, brown complected people. Eurocentric historians try to cover up this fact by stating that these people were swirly in complexion, but the reality is that the word swirly means dark or black. In 1914, there was a profound book called Marks of a Lost Race, written by a Hebrew forefather, W. Henry E. Bebbins. Now, he builds on this same truth almost 100 years ago when he states this on page 23 to 24. Now, listen to this, man. Not only this, but Adam was also created from the dark earth and brought forth into the light of God's creation. Because the best soil is virgin soil, which is black. And from Adam, who is black, sprang all colors of the nations, but not because of climatic conditions. Take the flowers, black orchards, and roses grown in Europe, and yet they turn out white, nor white ones black. Horses, though they be black, brown, and gray, or white, retain their colors in any climate. We also know that the first people who dwelt in Europe were black men and women, long before the white man came out of the cave, such as the Scots, Austrian people of Norway, and Sweden. All of these were black people, but through the intermarriages with the so-called white man, these people were soon destroyed, thus leaving nothing but a race of Caucasian people. The different features came about in this matter. When Noah's 3 sons began to bring forth children, we find that their features vary as did also their color, as they were all dark-skinned people, but of different shades. But neither Ham, Shem, nor Japheth got any white children. These nations divided themselves according to, some say, their features. This was done through the same manner as the so-called Jew. We find all of them having features alike. Why? Because they married among themselves. Now, this what I read is not to say we agree totally with everything it said. What I read was that 100 years ago, our forefathers here in America that were Israelites wrote their books and was already saying that the people of Europe were black. And also, we don't want to forget the Gypsies, who, from my research, were also Hebrew Israelites from the tribe of Dan. And they were known as the sunburnt, swirly race. Eurocentric writers state that their skin color was black, but also that they had upper lips, or thick lips. The word gypsy means out of Egypt, just as we came from out of Egypt. These Euro Gentiles have surnames, okay, of the Israelites or the Moorish Empire rulers and common people that ruled during the Dark Ages, because some were servants unto us, and they adopted themselves into our families. This is why we see them with names today like Emir, French for the black, Blackman, black man, and even more. Some of these denote complexion, others do so indirectly. The first class indicate a great many. There are the clans that we know as Roru and Dudley, spelled Dungla, or Black Stranger. In their own genealogy, there are all varieties of dog, which means black, such as Duff, McDuff, and others. And then there are Dons, with their equivalent Dons, Browns, Grays, and Blacks. You can find that family in the book Ancient and Modern Britons by McRitchie. That was written in 1884, pages 161 to 162. We can also see the truth manifested when we look at the word Douglas, which means black. And then you got McDouglas, meaning son of the black stranger. And many lands in Europe were named after the black Moors and black Israelites. So now I'm going to pass the mic to somebody else. But again, just showing and proving that we have constant primary sources written in the 1900s, written in the 20th century, written in the 1800s, and even as far as the 1400s and 1500s that prove without a shadow of doubt that we rule. Even in the European mythology, when they talk about the black giants conquering them, they're really talking about the Israelites and Moors when we rule. And even when you look at Tariq ibn Bal, who is a Moor from the tribe of Simeon, you go into the book Babylon and Timbuktu by Professor Rudolph Spencer, who will see in the section of the Moorish Empire, it gives you the lineage of a brief lineage of Tariq ibn Ziyad, who in fact was the son of Queen Hanina, who actually conquered on the AD when she conquered the Arabs. They was all related. This group of Moors were in fact represent the children of Israel that were later on.
Mighty Hebrew, I'm gonna need to get you to do your Mighty Hebrew. You're gonna have to we're gonna have to do a dual broadcast, global media, and simultaneously live stream and broadcast on the mightyhebrew.com. And you're gonna have to go in on this time frame here. You're gonna have to do a presentation. You know, the tribal minister takes you back into the Dark Ages, because you were definitely going in, but for some reason earlier you were going in and out. So when you were trying to bring out the sources and the books, not everybody was able to hear you, because I'm reading the comments in the chat and they want to hear the Mighty Hebrews breakdown on the Dark Ages.
Well, I can read real fast, if y'all want me to, some of the names of these books real quick that They couldn't hear earlier. If that's what you want me to do.
Yeah,
So
if
the
you could do
family
it really
can
fast, if everybody could keep their mic muted while he names these books really fast, and then then I need to announce our sponsors once again, and then I need to get closing statements because it's approaching midnight, and I got to be
okay.
up early. But please bring out those books, and then I'm going to get closing statements, and I'm also going to announce the sponsors and affiliates of tonight's event.
Absolutely. Okay. Again, as Priest Danyaahla was saying, because of the heavy whitewashing of the true history, many of the black Moorish Hebrew Israelites that ruled in the age of the dark kings and queens in Europe from the 5th century into the 15th century CE, we look at all these people as Europeans. And if they want me to do historical analysis on the Dark Age rulers, I can prove without a shadow of doubt that one, King James was a so-called black man who authorized the 1611 1611 translation of the Bible. Two, I can prove that Attila the Hun, the Hunnish conqueror who was called the source of God in 454 CE, was a so-called black man. I can prove that Constantine the Great, even though we have a problem with him, but he still was a bronze Byzantine emperor who legalized the so-called pagan religion Christianity 274 to 337 CE. For Justinian, the bronze Byzantine emperor who built the great Hagia Sophia church, he was a so-called black man of 483 to 565 CE. Lucius Septimius Civius, that's number 5. He was a bronze Israelite soldier that took down the Roman Empire in 193 CE, not to be confused with the Holy Roman Empire. 6. Vlad Dracula, the Impaler. He was not a vampire, but a real Romanian prince that ruled during the 15th century, 1431 to 1476 CE. 7. Richard the Lionhearted, King of England and leader of the Third Crusade, 1157 to 1199 CE, was a so-called black man. 8. Henry VIII, founder of the Anglican Church and great-grand-uncle of King James, was a so-called black man of 1491 to 1547 CE. 9. Charlemagne, the great black Frankish ruler and first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, 768 to 814 CE. 10. Ivan the Terrible, feared ruler of the Russians, a so-called black man, 1530 to 1584 CE. 11. William the Conqueror, the great Norman warrior who took England in 1066 CE. 12. King Arthur, King of Britain, who rumbled the Saxons in the 5th century CE. And last, Joan of Arc, 13. The young lady who led the Black French army against the Black English during the 100-Year War of 1412. And the books that you can go to is Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference by Kohen Mikael Ben Levi. You can go to New and Israelite Knowledge by Ben Yisrael Elder Adon, Ben Yisrael Moray of Abadjia.
Hey, brother Body Hebrew, I came across a brother, I don't know if you can verify this, but he said that there was some possible information that George Washington was black. I don't know. I heard that from a brother. He didn't give me his information. Have you heard something like that?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I think Rogers was the president. And we know that Abraham Lincoln and some of the other presidents did have what they would consider so-called Negro blood in them. But I'm gonna read the last few of these books and pass it on to Basim and let him close it out and whatever anybody else have to say.
Go for it. Go for it.
J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Line, and Section Race, volumes 1 to 3. You got Joseph J. Williams,
Hebrewisms of West Africa. You have Alvin van Sertima, African presence in early Europe. You have James Andar, the history of the American Indians. You have an Israelite school called the Mount Zion Bible School, the Shield of David and other biblical symbols. You have Elder Aish ben Ephraim, niggers, the true children of Israel. You have Adam Rutherford, Anglo-Saxon Israel or Israel Britain. You have Professor Rudolph R. Windsor, the Valley of the Dry Bones. You have Reverend Thomas R. Howlick, Anglo-Israel. You have Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, pre-colonial Black Africa. You have Stephen Jacobs and Rabbi Moses Farrar, the Hebrew heritage of Black Africa. You have Kofi Ashur Apoku, West African traditional religion. You also have the Holy Tanakh, the Hebrew text of the Old Testament. Alan H. Godbey, Lost Tribes of Myth. You have Raymond T. McNally, Dracula, Prince of Many Faces. David McRitchie, Ancient and Modern Britons. Again, Rudolph R. Windsor, From Babylon to Timbuktu. W. Henry Bibbins, Marks of a Lost Race. Stephen M. Collins, The Lost 10 Tribes of Israel Found. G. H. Gayer, The Heritage of the Anglo-Saxon Race. Michael Wood, In Search of the Dark Ages. J. G. Williams, Judaism. Za'ar Parah, Halloween, Is It Righteous or Wicked According to the Laws of the Most High? Ralph Griffiths, The Oxford Illustrated History of the British Monarchy. Moses Hadass, Imperial Rome. Za'ar Parah, Ancient Hebrew Handbook called Lashawan Kwadesh. Herbert Best and Barry Eric, Man Who Changed the Map and Last. Robert Ashton, James the First, by his contemporaries. Hallelujah.
Well done, tribal minister. Well done. I'm going to get some closing statements. Let me give a shout out to Aparium in the chat. Let me give a shout out to Warrior Hebrew Perry in the chat. Shout out to G-Con in the chat. Make sure y'all subscribe to BTV. Also, this event tonight would not have been possible without the sponsorship and coordination of brothers that came together that are affiliated with Global Media. So I want to personally thank and let the audience know that Hellraiser of Sons of Man played a vital part in this, bringing the attention that this event deserved and bringing the attention and spreading the word so that Priest Danyaahla, when he dedicates his time, we demands an audience. So make sure you check out hellraiserdigital.com. His latest clothing line is out. All his mixtapes, his albums, all of his merchandise, all of his social media is over there. So big shout out to Hellraiser and hellraiserdigital.com. This event was also brought to you by the tribal minister himself, the Mighty Hebrew. Make sure you go to themightyhebrew.com. Sign up for membership. The Mighty Hebrew University is right now in its open enrollment stages. The schedule, the criteria, the classes, and the subject matter is all available on themightyhebrew.com. Classes start next month, so the spots and the slots are filling up quick. There is a limited number of students that can enroll. We are not going to jam-pack the classes so that each individual that's studying under the Mighty Hebrew and Dr. Moray Yoel will get the one-on-one lesson and one-on-one time that they deserve when they are enrolled in the MightyHebrewUniversity.com. Also, the sweatshirts, t-shirts, and long-sleeve shirts that you.com are available for purchase. And just a quick disclaimer, all of the logos, images, emblems, seals, insignia that you see on the mightyhebrew.com, all rights are reserved and those are protected both by copyright and trademark. So make sure you check out the mightyhebrew.com. Last but certainly not least, the good, honest, humble Moorish brother I want to extend honors to, D. Miller L. D. Miller L. was one of the event sponsors tonight. That's why you saw his name and his website appear in the promotional video that was uploaded last week. Make sure you check out the Moab Bid Association. That's his channel on YouTube. Also, excuse me. Also check out his website, mbassociation.info. D. Miller L., if you would, please unmute your mic and give us some closing statements. I'm going to let the other brothers say some brief closing statements after you, and we're going to end this.
Appreciate that. Honest listeners, love for the and everyone else that had a good day. As far as for the listening audience, I guess I can throw out maybe 2 or 3 in particular things that I think are helpful if you're going to see Dark Ages. The first one is going to be the Silk Road, as I mentioned previous. I will also recommend that the listeners study West Africa, especially between the years of 711 to 1492. That's a pivotal time for the world that we live in today. So I highly recommend that. And last but not least, for the scholarship, I highly recommend that the listener at Islam to look at it objectively, not as a means of trying to convert anything of the sort. Islam had on the world during the quote-unquote dark. I definitely say peace. Love.
All right, thank you, thank you. You can find, this is, I'm screen sharing D. Miller L's business card. He is one of the co-founders. He is my personal cryptocurrency consultant. He is also my advisor on when to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin and other various forms of cryptocurrency, such as Ethereum. His website, once again, is www.mbassociation.info. Feel free to reach out to D. Miller L. and the other co-founder, the good brother Friel Bay, at mba.moabbidassociation@gmail.com. Also, you briefly heard me mention earlier in the live stream, Nasi Yashavel has put together his annual camping trip. The Hebrew Israelite Summit will be held outside of Atlanta, Georgia. That is August 5th through the August 8th. The flyers floating around. There will be some mixed martial artists down there, bunch of guest speakers, a bunch of lecturers, fishing, canoeing, camping, barbecuing. That is put on by Nasi Yashavel of Shamrei HaTorah. For any reservations, pricing, and all information, I believe Yashavel's wife, Ro, handles that. Feel free to reach out to Shamrei HaTorah. Nasi's doing great things. Also, Team Osiris is planned on that flyer, and I believe they will be at that event as well. So, shout out to Judah Priest. Shout out to Killer Priest and all the brothers that came together to make this event what it was. I appreciate it. So, with that, we say good night. God bless. Yah bless. Shalom. As soon as I edit the footage, Priest Danyahla's presentation will be put up by itself. I'll edit the open discussion we had with some of the brethren here, and I will also upload that separately. So at this time, we're going to end the live stream. I thank you all for tuning in to a Global Media production. And once again, this was sponsored by Hellraiser Digital, themightyhebrew.com, and the Moab Bid Association. Good night. God bless. Shalom. We're out of here. One.